the September 8th, 2022 meeting of the Cabrillo Unified School District to order. We'll start by taking roll call. Rosie?
Okay, thank you, Mary Beth. Mary Beth?
Yep, I'm here.
Freya?
Here.
Sophia? Kimberly? Lisette? Catalina? Thank you. We have quorum.
Thanks, Rosie. Catalina, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you very much.
Mary Beth, can I do a quick announcement?
Yep.
Lo voy a decir en español. Este es un aviso para las personas que necesitan interpretación en español. Josefina está en la parte de atrás del salón para proporcionar interpretación. Gracias.
Thanks, Rosie. Okay, first off, approval of agenda. Motion and a second, please.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Second.
Thank you, Sophia.
You need to do roll.
We are doing a mass vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say no. Passes 5+1.
Okay, next we'll move on to public comments. I have one here, but that's for item 5F, and we'll do that then. Do we have any other public comments, people that would like to speak for public comments? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to employee organizations report. First up, we have CUTA, Mr. Reardon.
Superintendent, President Alexander, board members, district management. My name is Sean Reardon, and along with Claudia Lundstroth, we are Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association co-presidents. The school year is off to an eventful beginning. Students are enthused to be returned, and while COVID learning loss and the erosion of so many norms, standards, and protocols during the pandemic year continues to burden the stakeholders of CUSD, I'm confident that this year will be a return to rigor in a developmentally appropriate manner for the students of Cabrillo Unified School District. One COVID change that has returned to the pre-COVID era that I miss is the accessibility of hybrid board meetings. While I'm glad to be in person, I know that many stakeholders in CUSD would benefit from a return to a hybrid board meeting format. Please consider a return to hybrid meetings in the service of equity and inclusion. The CUTA's Sunshine Letter is on the agenda for tonight's board meeting, and I hope that with new faces at the bargaining table representing the district, we can move speedily to settle the open articles in the contract. Just this morning, CUTA leadership demonstrated our flexibility and commitment to moving in an efficient manner in response to Dr. McFetridge's request to move the bell schedule at Cunha. We hope that the district will negotiate in a similar manner, one that allows for efficiency, compromise, and mutual benefit that will serve the educational and socio-emotional needs of our students and providing safety and livelihood for our teachers. A lot of time, resources were dedicated to the last two contentious bargaining cycles. The $500 per hour lawyer, the days of substitute teachers for so many of the CUTA bargaining team's members, so much paid in anger, angst, and frustration. Board members, this is your decision. I challenge you to authorize Dr. McFetridge, Bianca Forrester, and the new lawyer representing the Danis team to bring a compensation and benefits package that can be accepted by the bargaining team and ratified by the teachers. In teaching hours, bring suggestions that respect teachers' preparation time and students' developmental needs. Let's work together to make changes to the contract that will make CUSD a safer place for our students, our support staff, our teachers, our administrators. This third bargain struck under Dr. McFetridge can be different. Can be different from the last two that both ended, as we know, in arbitration moments from impasse. We've received the DAT file from the district office, and soon we'll have the CTA-generated budget essentials for negotiation. With this in hand, a positive growth mindset, the CUTA bargaining team looks forward to our first bargaining session on the 22nd of September. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have CSEA.
Good evening, Superintendent McFettridge and the board. CSEA held our first union meeting last night for the new school year. We have been working with the administration to negotiate some changes the district is proposing, and we will continue working in a positive manner this school year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to board member reports. Who wants to go? Kim.
Good evening. It's closer. Lovely to see everyone tonight. I just have a couple of comments, and one of them, while we go into negotiations every single year, first, please know I respect the teachers and the union and the process, and I understand how difficult it can be. My ask, and this is Kim Hines, one board member, I spent a lot of time last spring researching the state issues around funding. And if there are any people in the community, teachers, parents, another board member that might want to take up the shield with me, we seriously need to address funding of schools in the Bay Area. Not all districts are funded alike. Cabrillo Unified District doesn't have the same base funding as San Mateo or Palo Alto or Foster City or San Bruno. We each have different funding bases. And so that makes it really hard to compare apples to apples. There's something called excess education revenue. It's ERAF. I'm blanking on the full acronym, but we actually raised enough taxes in San Mateo County that we could increase our base funding if the legislation changed in Sacramento. We have flat funding across the state, and so the dollars that we have in Half Moon Bay don't go as far as they do in Fresno or Visalia. Yes, we're a flipper district and we sometimes have basic aid funding, but I just wanted to put this out to the community and know that my door is open to discuss the details if we want to figure out how to build coalitions with other districts and other counties in the Bay Area. Second, I'm really excited that tomorrow the board during its study session gets to hear a presentation from Brookwood Associates. A couple of years ago, we were looking at what to do with surplus land, and there was a consideration of a sale. And Mary Beth and I kind of took up the shield on what is best use and value to the district of the surplus land. And we went and we talked to the community college districts. We talked to other school districts, including Jefferson Union. And Sophia and I both got to attend the grand opening of the workforce housing, which is below market rate housing for school employees. And I think it's a seriously feasible thing that we might be able to do here on the coast side. So we will, having spent 2 years of doing research, putting out a request for proposals for the best groups to come and do analysis in our coastside community. They're actually presenting a workforce housing plan to us tomorrow. So please think good thoughts for us long term. I think there are a lot of ways that we as a community can support each other And I want to thank Mr. Reardon for mentioning learning loss. That was one of the items I had seen in the news this week. And I sincerely trust our teachers to know where the students are now and carry them forward as best they can, and that over time, this is going to level out. And that if we let our teachers do the teaching and honor all of the research on curriculum and what gets brought forward, that our students are going to be better off at the end of the year than they are right now. So thank you for all you do.
Thanks, Kim. Freya, you want to go?
Yeah, I want to second the thank you to the teachers and the staff that have worked so hard to get this school year off to a successful start. Really appreciate everything that all of you do in making sure that all of our children are educated and really cared for. I think that it's always so incredible to me, the dedication that the teachers and staff have to take care of all of our children and make sure that they thrive in each of their own ways. I'm really excited for next week. We're going to have our first environmental committee meeting of the year, and it's been now a year and a half, and it's just been such a joy working with Lizette on this committee, and she's going to take it over as I fade out this fall, but also working with the students, and so this is our third year of student leaders with that committee, and that's just been so wonderful to see them really take that and run with it and kind of move, and I just think that's a wonderful model for our district as much as we can. I was thinking about it after our meeting with the students, is any groups that we can get students involved and really hear their voices and honor their voices and help to teach them how to lead, because there's so many opportunities for them to learn and grow and develop skills that will help them in whatever jobs they end up with, which might not even be jobs that we know of now. They're kind of newer things. So anyways, very excited about continuing that. We're going to have our first meeting in person on Tuesday from 4 to 6. So if anyone is interested, it is open to anybody. Let me know. It's going to be up at the Cougar Park at the high school, and we would love new members and anyone interested. It only occurs every 2 months, so it's a minimal commitment, but it's really great to see steps being taken in action. Also looking forward to the CTE Advisory Committee meeting, and then, yeah, now we've got our wonderful weather, now that all the students are back in school, and little bits of fall. I'm so glad that the Pumpkin Fest is happening again, a huge fundraiser for all of our groups. So hoping that'll be a fun and safe activity as well. That's all.
Great. Thanks, Freya. Want to go, Sophia?
So I just came from the Health and Wellness Committee at the high school, Half Moon Bay High School. I love being part of that group because it's so open and there's a lot of really good conversations. And one of the big conversations today was student involvement and what we can do to make sure that students can be more involved in these grown-up designed things, which don't always work for kids' preferences and needs and all that. But the key theme really of that meeting emerged to be equity. So I'm glad that it was mentioned a couple times tonight already. Equity and inclusion and how foundational that is to health and wellness and academic success as well. And how, that's a responsibility of all of us. Sometimes it's big things like policies, audits, so on. Sometimes it's small things like giving space for someone to speak who normally is underrepresented in any kind of decision-making conversation. And so that just reminded me, we had, I'd mentioned that we have an equity statement. So if y'all could humor me for a little bit, I'm going to read some excerpts from that because folks might remember that about a year ago or so, we did a training, Dr. McFetchage, Lizette, and I, with the CSBA, the California School Boards Association, like a fairly intensive multi-month training around what equity really means, which essentially, if we were to boil it down to, it's giving every student what they need when they need it. But I want to just read some highlights from the equity statement that we worked on together as a group and finalized, I think it was last fall or so. Just, you can find it on the school, the district website, and in my email signature, I have it there all the time too, so if you ever get an email from me with my CUSD address, it's there too. Okay, equity in education is defined as the targeted allocation of resources based on critical unmet needs so that all students may develop to their full academic and social emotional potential. These resources may include adequate funding, rigorous and culturally meaningful curriculum, instruction and enrichment, technology, family engagement, and social emotional support or other specialized support services. In CUSD, we firmly believe all students can succeed when given support and experiences they need. Academic outcomes in school districts, including CUSD, have long been predictable due to a variety of student characteristics such as race, ethnicity, home language, national origin, family income, ability, gender identity, sexual orientation, family educational attainment, religion, and immigration status. While achievement gaps in public education can be attributed to complex societal and historical factors, we regard all learners as having promise, and we pledge to help all students achieve their potential. As leaders in our community, it is our responsibility to guide the strategic district actions and leverage partnerships so opportunity gaps disappear and all can access academic excellence. To ensure all students achieve at high levels, we need to focus on student needs and a review of data to determine additional support. This last paragraph. This work requires collaboration, continuous improvement, and commitment to the work required for success of all students. When all our students are empowered to choose their own paths to thrive in college, career, and life, rather than paths predetermined or predictable based on individual or family characteristics, then we will be successful in achieving our mission of serving every child every day and getting students what they need when they need it. So thank you for humoring me in reading that whole thing verbatim, but literally every single word was discussed like for a long time to be able to distill down to the real substance of what equity is and what, how it needs to be a commitment of every person in our school community, whether we're board members, superintendents, teachers, food service, IT, parents, nonprofit partners, other partners, like everyone that touches a child in our school district. My hope is that we can really embrace this meaning and really be authentic about doing so in all that we do. So I just wanted to share that again with everybody because it's something that to me is really important, and I hope we can keep moving forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Sophia. You want to go? I would. Do you like to end it? Let me go. I'll be fast today. You can end it. I just wanted to quickly thank everyone that's been reaching out from the community, from the staff, other educators in our community that don't work at our place who are interested and have ideas. I really appreciate getting all your emails. Someone gave me a book, which I'm reading right now, and maybe I can talk about that another day because I'm not done, but it's really interesting. It talks about the basics, the basis of what our education system was founded on, and how the founding fathers, that education was a big deal. Public education was a big deal from them because they're like, we're going to have a democracy and people have to vote. People need to be educated. So anyway, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate all that back and forth and talking about it and the interest in it, to have those partners, because I think we're all on the same page, is that what we're doing is we're trying to teach kids, and we just need to keep that at the end of everything we do, every initiative we have, every dollar we spend. How is this helping kids to learn? And is this doing the trick? So anyway, I just wanted to thank everyone for that, and I do appreciate it. And I'm always learning a lot, and I'm always to hear what other people have to say and their thoughts on things, because we're always trying new things, and we want to find things that work. And we're certainly not perfect in our district, and we have a long ways to go, but I think we're on a good road, and I do appreciate it. That's all I have. Off to you, Lizette.
Thank you. I will start in Spanish.
Take us home, Lizette.
I will. In all honesty, though, the reason I go at the end is it takes me a minute to put on my board member hat because I'm coming from other places, so I'm a slow transitioner, so it always
No, I
helps
think
to
you're
go
a
to
good
the end.
wrap-up. You're a good wrap-up.
Buenas tardes a todos. Como siempre, se les invita a venir a las juntas. Y aquí, gracias a Josefina, tenemos a alguien que nos pueda traducir. Son los que están viendo esta junta, por favor, si algún tema les interesa, si algo quieren hablar o quieren estar aquí en persona solamente para apoyar a algún tema en particular, siempre se les invita, por favor, vengan. Y y siempre están bienvenidos. Yo voy a hablar del regreso de clases que yo participé por el hecho de que nada más tengo muy poco tiempo, estoy trabajando y soy mamá. Soy un poco particular en que por lo general desafortunadamente me involucro más en las escuelas donde está mi hija y qué alivio y qué qué buena experiencia para empezar el año de poder regresar en persona a hacer esto en vez de hacerlo como lo hemos tenido que hacer, ver a los papás, ver a los estudiantes, como papá ver el recorrido de nuestros hijos a cada salón, ver a los maestros, ver a gente del distrito con los que trabajamos, con los compañeros como Rosy, que también somos papás, y eso compartimos. Fue algo muy bonito, una buena experiencia, y vi mucha participación de los padres latinos y también en particular vi que hubo mucha ayuda por parte de los alumnos, por parte del personal, si veían que alguien necesitaba algo y estaban ahí dispuestos para traducir, para explicar. Muchas gracias por eso. Y también me estaba hablando Freya de un comité que está en la high school, que está empezando y está dirigido por los alumnos, lo cual es la meta prioridad con todos estos comités que queremos apoyar y empoderar a nuestra juventud, que es nuestro futuro, para que sean líderes y tomen todo esto en cuenta, porque ellos son nuestro futuro. Y no creo que voy a hacer un buen trabajo como la compañera, porque ya se nos va, pero definitivamente voy a poner un buen esfuerzo. Now in Spanish, I just said thank you for being here. No, thank you. I just want to invite everybody who is, hasn't been able to come because of lack of feeling that they won't understand the meeting. So I'm always welcoming people. We have Josefina here to help translate. And, just inviting anybody who is wanting to just show up as regarding something in the agenda, something that they want to support, and just welcoming everybody and anybody who's interested to just come to these board meetings. I know they're very long, but if there's something in particular that they're passionate or strong or want to support, everybody's always more than welcome. And then I also wanted to say I was very pleasantly just hopeful, and it was great as a parent and as a board member to attend the back to school night. Unfortunately, I'm a bit biased because I do have a daughter, and there's just so many places I can go at one time. So I tend to be very involved in the school that she's in, which now is Cunha. But I've never been to a back to school night here. It was amazing. Just to be able to, as a board member and as a parent, to go into the different classrooms, meet the teachers, meet some of the parents that my daughter's children are also with, and some members of our district who work here are also parents. So just, what a small world, right? I mean, talk about it's Half Moon Bay. So it was really cool. It's just such a refreshing start for the school year, being that we haven't had it for a couple of years, and just amazing to see all the great things the teachers are doing with our students. And I was very grateful and very pleasantly surprised. It was amazing. Also, as a Latina mother and being in other events, I could see very much so how the district and every school has made such an effort to make the Latino community feel welcome by doing something so basic as having basic translation and communication, because a lot of the times when you're going somewhere and you don't know if you're going to even understand what's being said, it's an automatic turnoff. So sometimes that's a very, it's very nice to see that with the years that's been improving. And it was amazing to see all the students out there in leadership being very supportive and helping parents read the schedules, especially me coming where last time my daughter went to school, she was like a fourth grader, so now all of a sudden she has like all these teachers. So it was amazing, and thank you everybody for all the hard work. I'm sure the teachers, the staff, everybody put a lot of work into it, so thank you. And thank you to all the teachers who were so welcoming and very informative and helpful to put us parents at ease that it's going to be okay. And lastly, the environmental committee, I can't stop talking about what a great job you've done, Freya. So I'm very nervous that you're leaving. The students do a great job, but it does take a strong and knowledgeable person like yourself to really help this come about. So it's one of my favorite committees, even though I'm much in the back. I think you've done such a great job just empowering the kids and doing all the great work. So hopefully Joseph and the other, someone else is taking notes of everything that you've done so far. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to our first of the year meeting as well. So thank you. And what a wonderful young lady we met with. I forget, I'm really bad with names, but she's amazing. She's already ready with ideas, and it was just so awesome to see all of that. So thank you, and welcome everybody to the meeting tonight. Hopefully it'll go nice and short.
Thanks, Lizette. We had a comment come in late. Can we go back to that?
Comments should be 20 minutes, but if the board agree, we can extend it.
Do we need to,
You just have to agree to.
we don't need to, what do you call it? Amend the agenda.
No.
Is that okay with everyone on the board if we go back and do a comment?
Well, that's fine, but Catalina still has to go too.
Well, I know, and you have to go.
Okay.
Do it at the end? Do it at the end. Okay.
As you wish.
We're not under a time constraint? You said within 20 minutes or something.
It's 20 minutes, the time frame that we have to allow comments, and it's been 24 minutes since that time
Okay, let's
passed.
just do the public comment. Yeah? Is that okay?
And if you all agree, we can extend the time.
Okay, we're going to extend the time for the public comment. And if Sid Young, if you could come up and give us your comment, please.
Hi, my official name is Carlisle Ann Young. I live in Moss Beach, and I moved there in 1988 when there were school buses and very few traffic lights, and it used to take 10 minutes to get down to Half Moon Bay. So you might know what I'm going to address, and that is the inequity of all the mid-coast unincorporated parents that have to drive down their kids to school. And there's a post on Nextdoor with about 200 plus comments on it because of the horrible traffic. I don't know, since I couldn't find where the MU room was, I got here late, and I didn't really know. I don't have kids in the school district, but I have been paying property taxes since 1988. I would like to know, first of all, if you have any way you could apply for a grant to get school buses back, or even try to get Mark Zuckerberg or somebody to fund a school bus so that the mid-coast parents aren't in a frenzy trying to drive down here to get their kids to school. The other thing I wanted to ask is, the friend that came with me today, her daughter attended that school, and she's 50 years old now, and that's Montera Elementary School. When are you guys going to put a little bit of money into that? I mean, the population of Half Moon Bay is now equal to the 3 unincorporated towns on the mid-coast. So I think I know why they took away the school buses, because the townies were all on the board at that time, but now we have district elections, and I think it's time that people speak up for us, the people that live north of here that have to shuttle people down, where all the facilities, most of the facilities are all placed here in Half Moon Bay within the city limits. I don't see any equity to that. And I want to know, A, when the Montero School is going to have a facelift or get an upgrade. And I would also like to know what you can do about the horrible traffic situation, because people are really driving nuts. So I had the first week of school this year, I had a surgery in San Jose, way down on Cottle Road, and we left 2 hours in advance, and we were almost just got there in time because of all the traffic here in Half Moon Bay. Thank you. I hope that was 2 minutes.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Sid. And we are not, just so you know, we're not allowed to respond because it's not on the agenda, but maybe, are you talking about, so I think Dr. McFretridge might be touching on some of that in his public comments anyway, so do stick around for that, which is coming up here shortly. And also, please reach out to staff at the school about these things too, because I know there are some answers for you. But thank you for that, and we'll go ahead and move on to our student board member report. Catalina, please.
Okay, I'm just going to go through the report outs from each of the schools in the district, from each of the admins. So for El Granada, our El Granada Dolphins are off to a great start. They're swimming and practicing our PBIS expectations. They're holding a weekly swim raffles rewarding students for demonstrating positive behaviors at the school. This is meaning safe, work hard, inclusive, and making good choices. They're excited that music and heel classes have begun for the students, and they had a strong turnout for their first PTO-sponsored tea and talk with the principal, and they appreciate the community involvement. For Fairlawn View, thanks to the effort of a dedicated PTO member, a parent, Fairlawn View was awarded $4,000 living schoolyard grant from the San Mateo County Office of Education. With these grant money, they're going to continue to work with our community and CUSD partners to revitalize our outdoor classroom space as well as refine our environmental education focus. For Hatch, here at Hatch have enjoyed kicking off the beginning of the school year. This year, they have 5 Amity interns that are joining our school from Spain, Colombia, and El Salvador. We look forward to learning more about these teachers and their cultures as the year progresses. Our new TK immersion class is being led by teacher Hector Segura and ECE educator Karina Ramirez. And we are proud that we now offer a TK within our immersion program. And then the construction has finished at their new solar panels in the parking lot. Thank you to Hatch staff for your hard work in getting the school year off to a great start. At Kings Mountain, family engagement goals have increased participation in classrooms, library, back-to-school night, and fundraising efforts and special events, including the weekly Friday Circle. We also have alumni coming back to support fundraising efforts and special events such as the Cookie Bake and Art Fair. Music, Heal, and Art in Action launched while PBIS expectations are being shared and met. On 9/16, we will have our first school-wide Constitution Day celebration. It takes a mountain. At Cunha, here at Cunha, we had a great start to the year. Volleyball, flag football, cross country are ramping up and preparing for a fantastic season. Back to school night was a success, and parents and teachers enjoyed the evening. Currently, we are looking at our PTO fund drive, and leadership intramural activities have started at lunchtime. From all reports, students and staff are feeling great about the new school year, and teamwork makes the dream work. At Half Moon Bay High School, is heading towards the first progress report evaluation period next week. We have had our welcome back assembly and dance 2 weeks ago. Fall sports have begun in earnest. Registration for the PSAT and APs are coming up, and preparation for college applications are in the works. Service Jam was a great success with our student opportunities for community service. Thank you to Real Life Learning, Karen Hoffman. Outdoor education applications for counselors are being collected. Club Jam is coming up, where students can get more information about clubs, which will be on the 23rd of September. The Kindness Campaign is being formed by one of our new teachers, English teachers, Ms. DeLuyo. Construction on our new outdoor agriculture facility is in progress, and summertime site improvement projects such as our new roof, paving, and other infrastructure work has been completed. For Pelecitos, we've had a great start to the year with work at the farm ongoing and restarting Veggie Box for Sale. We are running a Monarch Mystery class with fieldwork on butterfly migration and numbers. Another program is our Farm to Desk cooking class, which we've all have benefited from here. Yum. Learning about current events and social and political issues via credible sources and information is an important skill, and our social studies class is taking on that challenge. We have explored mechanics and scoring of cornhole as a part of our Step into High School PE program with district adaptive PE teacher Angel Gonzalez Heldmeyer. And Pilarcitos is working back with Martina Reis to provide special ed education service, and pleased to welcome Stacy Myrick as Pilarcitos' first wellness and academic counselor. For La Costa, we are starting a year off with over 65% of students attending La Costa for the first time. We have filled classes for ESL levels 1 and 2 and are looking for teachers to open new sections of these classes. We are also looking for teachers that would be available during the day to offer ESL classes at the Coastside Senior Facility, ESL classes for our parents in our elementary schools, and teacher for ESL for computer classes. Anyone interested in our adult learning and our adult learners are encouraged to contact Director Grommet at 650-712-7140. Do we need to repeat that? We got it? Okay. We are also looking forward to starting our high school equivalency program on September 19th, as well as bringing forward new policies to open the high school diploma program for adults. And then lastly, at Los Listos Preschool, our students have been in the classroom for almost a month, and they have learned the schedule and adjusted to their classroom routine. Children are learning their friends' names and building community. Parents attended back-to-school night via Zoom last week, and we had high attendance, and parents commented that they see a difference with their child by attending school for just a month. They've noticed language development, new vocabulary, and asking more questions at home, and independent skills. The Half Moon Bay Library will start doing weekly visits in the summer and in the middle of September in both classrooms. And that's it.
Great. Thank you so much. And we'll round out our communications section with Dr. McFettridge's comments.
Thanks very much. I'm going to take the liberty of taking this mask off to make these comments. I just do want to bring up, sometimes I do mention the consent agenda items and some highlights from those. Tonight, on the consent agenda, the board is asked to approve, as we always do, proclamations at this time for Hispanic Heritage Month, which is September 15th to October 15th. As you know, we fly banners at all our campuses. We ask our campuses to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, so important here. I think this is the 4th year we're doing this proclamation. And again, these proclamations do wind up going to the consent calendar now as a matter of trying to make the general session a little quicker and more efficient. Also would be the LGBTQ History Month celebration in October. And banners will also fly in October at our school campuses for that month as well. The last few weeks have been great. I've been able to go to every back-to-school night except for one, and it's been fantastic. It was great to come here to Cunha, to go to the high school, Fair Lawn View, El Granada, Hatch. Unfortunately, could not attend Kings Mountain because of scheduling, but I know that Dr. Bhatia, I think, and Ms. Ladd were there for the Kings Mountain, and I want to thank Dr. Bhatia for joining me for many of these back-to-school nights. It was also very heartening this last Friday. I was invited to go to the high school football game by a faculty member there and by a community member, and it was really hometown magic, quite frankly, to be there for the game. I think Coach Holden, varsity Coach Holden, was celebrating something like 20 years or several decades of coaching. And I was so inspired also by, between the JV game, the junior varsity and the varsity game, is that it really did speak to equity. There was a statement made about sportsmanship and about treating people appropriately and about respecting people and teamwork and taking care of one another, regardless of race or language or nationality or sexual orientation. And it was really poignant for me. It was also very heartwarming for me to speak with families and staff at Half Moon Bay High School who were raised here and who are raising kids here. It really was very humanizing and nice to have discussions with those folks. I won't call them out, but they know who they are. And also to see newcomers. I don't live here on the coast, but to feel welcome as someone who isn't from here, and to meet people who have just moved to the community and who can appreciate what that represented, to come together in that way. It was really quite beautiful. And the back-to-school nights, I thought, were too. I do want to speak a little bit to Ms. Young, I think it was, her comments, particularly about traffic. And I think this is just the elephant in the room now, and I have seen those next door comments. And the man who began the next door comments, I was in contact with today and last week and the week before. As you know, as most people know, last year the Half Moon Bay High School had to go to an 8:30 a.m. start time by legislation. It was the last year we could do it, we did it. So with that, the CUNA staff, because last year we had said that we wanted staff to vote on schedules, they voted on an 8:30 staff. And this coinciding start time of 8:30 in the morning has exacerbated traffic along the coast. And so the coinciding start times at CUNA and Half Moon Bay High School, certainly there are other things we can do. There was mention of buses. We are looking at a grant for electrification of the bus fleet. We will be looking in years ahead about how that could be brought back and be budgeted. We do hope to electrify those buses. But the traffic increase this year was predictable. Last year at CUNA, they did take it to a vote, and the 8:30 a.m. start time, I think, won by one vote. And so I do want to thank Mr. Reardon and Ms. Lundstruth for speaking to me this morning, because when this parent emailed me last night, again, second time, and someone else did, I put out a plea to our CUTA leaders to say, hey, can we consult about this? I had spoken to the principal, Jeff Clinton, here. I had spoken to the PTO president, Amber Stariha, here. And then I sort of rounded this out to try to get consensus and consult with CUTA representatives. And I believe that consensus has been achieved. I want to thank Sean and Claudia for texting me or emailing me this afternoon to say that they do not disagree with the district changing the start time because of the concerns about traffic. And so a later start time has been agreed upon by the principal here, by the PTO president here, and by CUTA, and we will be moving to an 8:45 a.m. start time here at CUNA Intermediate School. That said, I want to manage the public's expectations about this. I was talking to Amber, CUNA PTO president this morning. You know, this is not going to fix traffic. Drivers fix traffic. People still need to think about how they drive. They need to be responsible driving. They need to plan ahead. Use Samtrans if they can, walk and roll to school. I'm very pleased seeing the progress happening up to El Granada Elementary School, which was something that we negotiated, I think, 3 years ago, an easement there so that they could finish the path there. That will hopefully allow for more walking and for more biking. But I do want to manage people's expectations here. You know, there's a contractor joke, and I've been using it today and talking to parents about this and about another issue, which is, you know, a contractor will say you can have it cheap, you can have it fast, and you can have it good, but you can't have all three. This is not going to be something that we're going to do overnight. I made an agreement, I think that axiom is true. We don't want a half-baked solution. I think we can start at 8:45 in the morning here at CUNA, and I think that will lessen some of the traffic woes that have been exacerbated this year because of return to work after COVID and remote work working. And I think it will minimize or you know, it'll ease some of the traffic woes. But we all have to do our part about trying to plan early, try to get there, walk and roll to school, et cetera, and we need time to do it right. When I talked to Mr. Clinton, the principal here, today, this afternoon, at lunchtime, when he was doing duty, and I came to meet with him and some students, we will expect this to take place no later than October 1st. And I think that is reasonable because it gives time for Mr. Clinton to work with his faculty, his staff, to decide how they can ensure the schedule works and meets the state mandated instructional minutes requirement. The person who started the Nextdoor posting, again, I was in contact with them an hour ago, and they thanked me for the work that's been done. I do want to just say that when these problems happen, they are not always solved like that. It's not like poof, a miracle happens. We have to be in consultation with stakeholders. And that includes our union bargaining representatives, our union presidents for CUTA and for CSEA. That includes the principals and the parent representatives at the school. So I just want to put that out there. I do hope that by October 1st, minimum, if sooner, if reasonably possible, that the principal here can work with his staff and faculty, and that the PTO president agrees that that's a normal time frame, and we can give some notice to families here. That may help with traffic. There are certainly a lot of other things that are needed for traffic. We certainly think biking, walking, rolling to school will help a great deal, and we hope too that by staggering these start times for Half Moon Bay High School and for Cunha Intermediate, that buses will be able to get here on time. Samtrans has been very accommodating to us, and yet we know that the traffic has increased in part because of these start times being the same, and in part because so many people are going back to work after the COVID remote working situation. So there it is there. Again, to the members of the public who want to talk to me about these things, I always welcome those, and I try to get back to those emails directly, personally, myself, as soon as I can. And I look forward to tonight's meeting. Thank you. Okay, I will just address this real quickly. I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Young. There was talk about inequitable or unequal facilities at Montera, at Farallon View Elementary School, and also at El Granada Elementary School. Actually, tonight, El Granada Elementary School is slated and scheduled for their architectural presentation. Facilities master plan was done 2 years ago, and the last year has been spent with faculty and staff there. I see Erin O'Connor Brown, the new principal, here. She's only coming in as a new year, getting to hang of it. But Ms. Beltrami, her predecessor, had participated, as did staff, there in a lot of planning. And so we expect to break ground at El Granada and at Farallon View in 2023. And Ms. Young, if you will contact me directly, someone else did earlier this week, actually, wondering about this, and I can share with you the facilities master plan, the amount of money that will be spent, that this board has approved to be dedicated on those projects. And I will just say, since this seems to be also the elephant in the room here, I do think that Hatch Elementary in particular, a lot of investment went there and soup to nuts, and that campus is fantastic. And Farallon View and El Granada, I think, could have been staged previously in ways so that everybody got a little piece, but it didn't happen that way. My goal when I came to the district 3 years ago was to get a renewed facilities master plan so we could get reasonable prices and knew what the cost estimates would be. And then the next step was to do the architectural work to envision, and you will see renderings tonight for El Granada, and in October, Studio from Quattrochi Quack Associates, and then in October, we are meant to see the Farallon View renderings from Studio W. So hopefully that addresses it. Again, this isn't a back and forth between members of the public. That's not kind of what the board is allowed to do, but I'm sort of given a license to do that. So I will do that tonight. And Ms. Young or any members of the public, if you'd like to talk about sort of what's been done and what to expect, I'd be happy to speak with you about that. You're welcome.
All right, thanks for that. Let's move on to our consent agenda. I just want to point out the amount of work that goes into these consent agendas, so always be sure to take a look at them. It has a lot of good stuff in them, including our proclamations, which I feel a little bad that we're not going on and on about them like we usually do because they're very important and there's a lot of hiring Bianca's done in there. There's all kinds of good stuff. So anyway, do take a look at that. There's actually 18 items in that consent agenda. And they're all important things, but this allows us to get through it without keeping you here all night. But they all are very important, and I also think it, shows the work that staff is putting into this that's going on here, that there's a lot of work going on. So with that being said, I'll take a motion in a second to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Freya. We are going to do roll call. Mary Beth,
Aye.
Freya, Sophia,
Aye.
Kimberly, Lisette, Catalina. The item passes 5+1.
Thanks, Rosie. Okay, moving on to general business. Our first item is an action item. It's the public hearing and adoption of resolution number 18-2022 to approve the statement for the public textbook and instructional incentive program for the 2022-23 school year. So we are going to do a hearing, and then I'm going to take a motion in a second on this, and then we can do discussion. But first, we're going to have Leticia present it to us.
Dr. Bhatia can talk about this. I was going to talk about the process. You'll see this is a public hearing. This is an opportunity for the public to speak to this, and I have advised, recommended to President Alexander that then they take the motion after they can hear from the public if there is a hearing. But basically, this is, Dr. Bhatia can speak to the matter itself, and then we can have the public hearing.
Good evening, President Alexander, Governing Board, colleagues and community members. This is resolution, as you mentioned, 18-2022, and Ed Code 60119 states that in order for us to receive public funding, we do need to bring this resolution to a public hearing, stating publicly that we have sufficient instructional materials and supplies for students. I do want to point out that with the pandemic, we have also seen a delay in shipping due to paper shortages and printing. We're very lucky to be gifted the opportunity to get a Williams visit here at Cunha Intermediate School. I do want to say that thanks to Mr. Clinton and his team and the teachers here, we passed with flying colors. We did have enough sufficient materials, and we actually had members of San Mateo County representing the California Department of Ed go through every single classroom and check that every child had one textbook. And so I also did want to clarify something that Williams sufficiency, which is one of 3 sufficient instructional materials, this is the one. The second one is making sure that we have highly qualified teachers. Number 3 is a facilities Williams visit. So today we're looking only at the instructional materials and supplies. Wanted to point out that sufficient instructional materials means that every single teacher has either an electronic or paper teacher manual, and every single child has one textbook. Sometimes there is a little bit of confusion that we are required to order the add-ons and the nice-to-haves because they always have 3 different models and adoptions. But we are here today to say that for the minimum, we do have a teacher manual and a student textbook, either electronic, paper, or both, and that should a child not have the technology or would want that textbook, we are required by law to ensure that that child has access to the textbook, either through a hard copy or through a Chromebook and an online textbook. So I know we have, as you have seen over the last 3 years, we have worked really hard in making sure that we are upgrading our curriculum to ensure that we are at standard. And we're not there 100%, but we're working towards that every year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leticia. Let's do our public hearing now. So I'd like to open the public hearing. And if anyone from the public has any comments or anything they want to say about this, if you could please come up now. Okay, I don't see anybody, so I'm going to close the public hearing. And then I'll take a motion in a second to approve this item and have discussion on this item.
So moved.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Lisette.
Okay, so now I want to open it up to discussion. If anyone has any questions or comments, do it now.
Just a quick comment to thank you, Leticia. I think what you just described is a really good example of all that it takes to make a school and a school district run effectively. that is, a lot of it's behind the scenes. So the magic happens in the classroom, but there's so much, so many layers upon layers upon layers of works and supports that everyone is doing that makes it actually happen. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Okay, if nothing else with that, let's vote, please, Rosie.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Thank you. Passes 5+1.
All right. Next item we have is a presentation. It's staff updates for the 2021-22 and 2022-23 school years.
Our Director of Pupil Personnel Services, Bianca Forrester, will come up and present on this, and you'll see the presentation up there. I do want to, before she starts, thank Bianca for coming and hitting the ground running and joining the district this year. I think it was early, the beginning of 2022, and this is a far different place than we were last year. We had numerous openings. This year we are very nicely staffed, I think in a very good way. Ms. Forrester will speak to that tonight, and I'll let her take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. McFetrich, for the warm welcome, and good evening to the board members and to the members of our public. I would like to say a special shout out to Ms. Catalina Gonzalez Johnson. This work is really about making sure that your needs are met and the needs of all of your peers across the district, from our TK program all the way up to our seniors in high school, are adequately addressed, and that we're offering a good educational program. And that really begins with our staff. So let's see. Do I have access to that? No. Oh, I do. Nice. Okay. Sorry. Where did I point it? I point it there. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So I just want to draw everyone's attention back to the San Mateo County Grand Jury Report. The Strategic Recruitment and Retention Plan, which I developed in the spring of the 2022 school year, was developed concretely and thoughtfully in response to the Grand Jury Report findings, focusing on the Personnel Department, on equity and inclusion in our hiring practices. So really a big focus on how do we remove systemic barriers to hiring.
And just for context on this grand jury report was about all schools in San Mateo County, not just ours. And basically it just said, hey, everybody in California, we need to hire so it reflects more closely to the people we serve.
Thank you. Yeah. So the Cabrillo Unified School District Recruitment and Retention Plan communicates our values, as we heard discussed this evening, and I really appreciate the community member for also lifting the equity piece. Cabrillo Unified is an equity-focused organization. Our personnel department workforce equity statement is that a key district priority is to recruit and retain a workforce that reflects the diversity of our student body and our community. The district is committed to recruiting, hiring, developing, and retaining racially, ethnically, culturally, and linguistically diverse educators who center their work on student success. We believe that every student's learning experience should be fostered in an inclusive and safe environment, and we are committed to hiring staff who reflect our students' beliefs and experiences. So our key performance indicators of our recruitment and retention plan were around hiring practices and procedures reviewed annually and updated as needed. I'll be really transparent with everybody here. There have been few systems that I inherited that I think were serving our community well. And so it's really right now about focusing and the goals that I have for the department. And I want to also, as I heard Dr. McFetrich speak to earlier, manage expectation. It's probably going to take at least another year to get everything fully cleaned up. And a primary goal for the department is to build systems that support our practitioners, that support our students, and that support our families. Another key performance indicator was around having all positions fully staffed to the greatest extent possible. You see that little caveat there because we do know, and it's been all over the news, the United States is truly, and it's not just the state of California, in a real crisis vis-a-vis hiring our educators. And I think I heard you, Board Member Hines, this evening speak to the economic realities around that. And so it's really difficult, and I hope that everybody will constantly advocate for a bigger slice of the pie going to education and to our young people in this country in a larger way. And finally, increasing numbers of diverse hires for all of our open positions. So here's our student demographic information for Cabrillo Unified. You can see that our student demographics haven't shifted between 2021 and 2022. While we're thrilled to have welcomed in many, many new young learners in our TK program, our numbers across the district and the upper grades, everybody beyond TK, remain pretty stable. But you can see that even with the influx of our new kids, our demographics really, truly hasn't shifted much. So our school leadership teams in 21-22 comprise 77.8% leaders who are Caucasian and white, and 22.2% of our leadership teams at that time were diverse individuals. And so for our 22-23 school year, we have been so very lucky to recruit some phenomenal educators. And so now our student leadership teams, our staff leadership teams at the school sites are more reflective of the students we serve. And you'll see here this data has really shifted in a profound way. And I think that's really important for the students and for the parents and for rebuilding trust in our community around that, and for our teachers as well. For our teacher demographic data, you can see that in the 21-22 school year, very much reflective of where we were with leadership. It's 77.9% white and 22.1% diverse. And then when you look at the 22-23 school year, we've moved the needle a little bit. We've gone from 22 to 25% in terms of our teaching faculty. And then we look at our white teachers has gone down by from 77 to 75%. I would like to also say that on the national level, in the United States, the data is not as good as ours. It's 86 point something % white, and of those, overwhelmingly female. I also do just want to point out that when we are talking about equity, we're really talking about, when we look at those national numbers, and you look about equity and, what slice of the pie goes to education and goes to women and children in terms of our, country. And so some of this advocacy work that's happening, I hope, is going to really reinfuse and reinvigorate schools and school systems across the country. But the profession is overwhelmingly female, and that's true. So I wanted to take a minute to look at our Cunha Intermediate School new hires. So our new hires, we would like to welcome Andrew Bickford, Justin Jew, Andrea Bravo, Hannah Brown, Ms. Litzame Dunaway, Victor Guzman Contreras, Ping Wu, Casey Owens, and Mark Squire. And of course, I didn't put Principal Clinton up there because he came from within the ranks, but he technically is a new hire. And then at Half Moon Bay High School, we had a lot of new folks join Half Moon Bay High School this year, which is pretty par for the course, I guess you'd say. When you have leadership turnover, oftentimes you have teacher turnover at the same time. So interesting. I'm so thrilled that our fabulous new Half Moon Bay High School principal's right here, Mr. Andy Boyson. We couldn't have done better. And he's welcome to the team. Miss Jennifer Shun is a new vice principal, joining him and Deanna Tower to make out the trifecta of awesomeness up there. We have Vicente Patino, a new math teacher, Miss Yi, Latha Goldpina, who was with us kind of last year through that college program and now has joined the district, and we're thrilled to have her, along with Rob McHugh, Jerry Delaney, Celeste DeLulio, Jake Ward, Laura Jasso, John Neiman, Hope Ellsbury, Gail Smith, and Hanalani Hansen. I also did want to point out the commitment to supporting the CTE program and the agriculture program. And I know that we have big visions for how we build out the CTE program, and I look forward to getting to be part of that work over the next several years in terms of supporting our practitioners to get credentialed up, supporting pathways for folks who want to get those kind of credentials, and then providing these incredible opportunities for Ms. Gonzalez-Johnson here and her classmates. At Hatch Elementary School, we were thrilled to welcome Hector Segura in our new TK immersion program. You'll remember that when we talked about the recruitment and retention plan, one of the things was in there was around building partnerships. And so at the time, we were talking about building partnerships with Notre Dame de Namur in particular. And that was just because Notre Dame de Namur had come to Dr. McFetridge earlier and said, hey, we really want to partner with you. But it turned out that Notre Dame de Namur, being a private institution, isn't eligible for a lot of the grant funding around the classified teachers grant and so on and so forth. And so, fortunately, I have developed a very robust partnership with San Francisco State University. In fact, I have Diane Garfield on my speed dial on my cell, and she has been tremendous in terms of helping me to support this young man who's from our community. And when he applied, they said, oh, sorry, doors closed. Your application was due 3 weeks ago. So I picked up the phone and I said, hey, is there any way that we can let somebody into this program? I think this is really important. How do we remove barriers? This deadline is somewhat arbitrary, maybe. Thankfully, I wasn't the only person who had asked for that. And San Francisco State, our colleagues there, are not unaware of the teacher shortages and the staff shortages. And they said, you know what, if you can get this into us within, they gave me like less than a week. And then, you know, supporting our applicant to go through the process and working with our fabulous practitioners to ensure that he would get letters of recommendation from his principal here. I know that Dr. Bhatia has provided some support around this piece as well. So it really was a team and a community effort. And that's what it's going to take. If we're going to build systems that are going to support folks from the ground up, it's going to take all of us. So I'm just really like over the moon excited about that. And I really just wanted to pick up the phone and call his mom, who's a phenomenal practitioner here in the district serving our TK programs. And I know they're called something else, but right now I'm a little bit nervous. So, but in any case, but I couldn't, but I did find out that, you know, he was fully accepted into the program, and it was just such a joy. And it really makes me happy to see that, because that's really what I believe the revolution is. Then we welcomed Brooke O'Brien to the 3-4 combination class there, and I thank Ms. Jaramillo and her team for just jumping on it. We see an application, it comes in EdJoin, we call them up. Hey, when can you meet? Can you meet today? Okay. Then Bianca, can we clear the references? Can we hire this person? And we, you know, just get it done and really quickly. I've also been developing this partnership, and I don't know why it's called this, but it is the through the Convocatoria, and it is the program with Mexico and Spain. And so we found out within, like, I don't know, maybe less than 2 days that these were the dates that we could interview these people. And so I got on the phone with Dr. Bhatia and the school leaders, and I said, hey, we need to put together a panel right now, because we're going to have all these folks who are our applicants from Mexico. There's only like 20 people total in the program coming from these sojourn exchange programs, and we got to get them. And if we decide we want somebody, then we have to offer them a job on the spot, because that's the way the rules go. It would have been helpful if they gave us a little bit bigger deadlines, but they didn't. And so I was, again, really grateful to this team for just stepping in. Thank you. I so appreciate that, Ms. Jaramillo, and your team. And, you know, we had folks step up and interview, both for the folks coming from Mexico and for the folks coming from Spain. As it turned out, we got really lucky to get 2 fabulous practitioners, both from España. Me encanta. So we have Carlos and Silvia here. And then Dr. Bhatia and I went up to the California Department of Education, and I gave a presentation to all of their sojourn teachers about kind of how districts work and all that kind of stuff. So again, just really rebuilding that relationship. And that way, and again, got those people's phone numbers in my cell. If we need a teacher, they're going to be more inclined to help us out because we jumped on that train, we sat in that room, we talked with those folks, and I have to say I had a fabulous day with the fabulous assistant superintendent, and it was my joy to be able to do that. And then we got Matt Haynes, who came in to join us, and we're just thrilled to have him. And again, thank you so much, Ms. Jaramillo, to you and your team. And I really also want to say a huge thank you to all the teachers for creating such welcoming, warm environments for all of our new staff. That's been really, really wonderful. So our certificated vacancies for classroom teachers, that's what the data looked like in 21-22, and there's where we are now. Right now, we have a single certificated vacancy at Pilarcitos, and we already have a plan in place, and it's pretty much handled. I also did want to take a minute to say thank you to the Rotary Club Half Moon Bay for their warm welcome to our new team members. I had heard that this was a really special community and that this was going to be this incredible opportunity to get to know folks in the community and get to support all of our new practitioners. But I have to say I was pretty overwhelmed when we got there and saw just what a beautiful presentation and what a warm welcome and just how nice. They just created this beautiful vibe, and I just think it's evidence in the smiles you see here on the faces of all of our new hires. So it was just a really wonderful, warm welcome. And finally, I do want to say in a really earnest way that for me, when I'm out there recruiting, and recruiting is intense, it's like a dating show. Like, I'm texting people, I'm calling them up, I'm like, hey, don't you want to come be on Team Cabrillo? You want to join hashtag Team CUSD, and you're really selling it. You really are, because our teachers, the reality is that they can go other places, and they can go places where they can earn more money, and they can go places or they can just choose to do a different career altogether. But we were really lucky, and I think we were really lucky, and thanks to the people in this room. I know Andy Boyson did an amazing job at the high school. Like, we had to hire people over the summer. Those teachers stepped up to help out with that. And he and his team were there every step of the way. There was not any time. He was out camping, and we were texting about a new hire because he didn't have cell phone service. And guess what? We got it done. And that's really what it's about. And so I want to say this with a huge sense of gratitude. When I go out there and I say, Cabrillo is a special place, this is a phenomenal community. I really enjoy every single day that I get to be here and serve in this community. And I feel that the work that I'm doing makes a difference. And that's resonant for a lot of folks who are looking for their home too. So I just want to say a tremendous thank you to our CUTA, our CSEA, and our community partners and our board for setting the vision, along with our superintendent for saying this is the way it's got to be. So thank you all so much. Really appreciate you and the opportunity to do this work here. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Bianca. Wow, you don't seem nervous. That was great. Thank you very much. And thank you for putting us in such a good position this year. It's nice. We have never been in a position like this since I've been on the board. So I really appreciate it. We can open up for discussion or questions now. Why I've got the mic, I'll ask you one question. I see for the, you're hiring for teachers, it ended up being like 25% diverse and 75% white. Do you know what our number is for, that's for new hires, but for the teachers we have, I assume it's something similar.
So for the teachers that we had last year, it was 77% and 23%. So yeah, so it's pretty similar. And I think this is also reflective of the realities of the profession and who's going into teaching credential programs, right? And it's also, when you see that application coming on EdJoin and you see that they're a diverse hire and you know what's the appropriate, you're going to be competing. I come from Alameda County where you're competing for educators. There's no question about it. Those folks who are multilingual and diverse folks, they have a lot of different places that they could go. And that's just the reality. And so we have to be responsive, we have to be supportive, and we have to be respectful. And I think those are really key metrics that attract folks to us.
Quick follow-up. Oh, I was just going to, can I just a clarifying question to that? To make sure I understand correctly, are you saying that like our teacher population right now is 7723? Like if, not just the new hires from last year, but?
Now, our teacher population now is 25%.
Diverse.
I see what you're saying, then we
Yeah.
break it all down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
no,
not
no,
new
no.
hires to
That's
new hires.
inclusive, that's a great question.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to do the spreadsheet, and we were trying to figure it out, and we were like, oh yeah, what are we gonna talk about here? So no, that's inclusive of all the teachers in the district now. It wasn't
Oh,
just
okay.
inclusive of like who we
The new
hired.
hires.
No.
Okay, got it.
Our new
Okay.
hires changed our data because before we were at 23% diverse hires are in our teaching faculty, and now we're at 25%. So that, and that's across the district, across every single classroom in the district. TK up.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, great question.
I guess if you were to look at the new cohort, we could get that data for you about the new cohort and what that demographics on that look like. But you can tell that the numbers have increased. With those numbers of hires, you've seen an increase toward the goal.
Yeah, that makes sense, just because there was a slight bump up. You're not hiring that many people relative to the number of people you have on staff anyway, so you're never going to see a huge bump up year over year. So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. Any questions or?
I want to acknowledge the hard work you have done and the fact that you do talk up our community. I think it's a fabulous community, but if we didn't have someone on point sharing that, that sense of value and community, you wouldn't have had those hires. So thank you for your dedication and contribution there. Because at the beginning of the year, on the news every night, not all of the districts in the Bay Area are in such good stead. In the East Bay, they were opening schools and didn't have enough teachers in the classrooms. And so it's still going to be a problem in our area. And yes, it is an economic issue in terms of a profession that has been a high percentage of women and pay being lower. And across this country, there are colleges that have closed their education programs or not run them because they don't have enough applicants. What are we advising students to do and young adults? And I think it's a fabulous profession. It was what I started. My first degree was in education, and I taught for 4 years before I couldn't decide what to do next, and I'm still don't know what I'm going to do next. But my career's been an evolution, but it is a problem. And so that's why we will keep working on trying to communicate the value of education and education funding. We have to lift it up so all boats can rise, and it can't be just in Cabrillo, but we're going to have to work at it at a state level. So that's my continued push for the year, to engage.
Are you sure? Okay. Thank you, Bianca. Again, I love that you are setting goals and key performance indicators, and you're tracking to those goals and doing so in a qualitative and quantitative way. So I want to say that. I love your examples because I think that it's hard to miss that, or easy to miss that bureaucratic hurdles are a big barrier to equity. So when you have these things like, oh, sorry, you missed the deadline, or, oh, sorry, you didn't fill in all the bits of the form, like that's a big barrier to equity. So to the extent that, we can mirror that in all our systems, having them be, clear, transparent, and also flexible where they need to be flexible to account for, our equity goals. I think that's really great and really important. Second thing I wanted to say is I appreciate that you brought up the topic of community as a big, selling point, I think, in what you do, but just in something that we all can remind ourselves about and espouse in our hearts about how we may not be Menlo Park. No offense to Menlo Park. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful community. We may not be Hillsborough. We may not be, one of our neighboring high school districts, which I appreciate, and I have colleagues there that I love and adore, and they're running a 600 million bond in November, I think. And I'm like, wait, 600 or like 60? Like, wow, that's like a different league, right? So there is money in the Bay Area, like, you know, but that's not who we are. That's not us. We are about community. There is no community like the Coast Side anywhere. So I am so grateful that you can see that and that you've already seen that in your short time with us. I'm grateful for that, and that you realize how important that is to human beings that are choosing where they want to, you know, pour their hearts and souls into, the, you know, every day for students like Catalina and others, you know, all of our students, right? And some, you know, anyway, that's really what's important to people, kind of at the bottom line. And so thank you. That just sets such a positive tone, not only for your results in terms of metrics, but also for the culture of our school district and our school community, who we are. So thank you.
I would just like to respond to that, because I do just want to say, like, for myself, when I came to join Cabrillo, and when I interviewed here, we all have choices. And one of the reasons I chose to come here was because of Dr. McFetridge's making a really intentional, I saw that Jesus Contreras, our, you know, Chief Business Officer, and Dr. Leticia Batia, you know, as our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction. And I went home after my interview the first time, and, you know, all nervous and pins and needles like one is, and I said to my husband, oh, I think I found my home. Like, I really like those people. And I can still remember what Dr. Batia was wearing. And like, it made a difference to me, though, because I wanted to join a team that had leaders who were people who were going to push my thinking and support me and create. I knew what was best for the kids, and I think that's really important. And so for me, you know, being unapologetic about being intentional around hiring folks at all levels of our organization, really, and really making sure that we have leaders who are really pushing all of our thinking to be more inclusive across the board, every single step of the way, every day. And it's been a joy. I've learned from Dr. Batia every single day. And our fabulous, you know, everybody. Rosie teaches me every day, too.
Geez, I'm going to cry, and you're not even talking about me.
No, but it's true, and it's real, and it is a special place.
Yo primeramente como mamá y también exalumna, yo crecí en esta comunidad. Te quiero dar las gracias, muchas gracias por hacer lo que estás haciendo por esta comunidad, por los niños de esta comunidad y las familias, en particular por el nuevo maestro que es hijo de Rosalba. Estamos hablando de motivar a nuestra propia comunidad y hacerlos líderes y inspirar a nuestras nuevas generaciones. Muchísimas gracias en lo personal, porque yo he crecido, he vivido en esta comunidad y siempre es un placer y un orgullo ver a nuestros propios alumnos y juventud ser nuestro futuro. Muchas gracias. So I just personally wanted to thank you for that, and thank you for, you know, really inspiring and supporting our own community to become our next generation of teachers, and for doing that for that young man. Thank you so much for doing that. And I thank you as a mom, and also as a native Half Moon Bay student here. I went through all the schools here, and so it's always such, I have so much pride to see that not only is he from Half Moon Bay, but he's also a Latino. And if you look at our population, it's a high population, and it's very supporting, not taking away from our great teachers that we do have, but it means a lot when you have teachers and the people that you're serving that reflect who you are as well. So thank you, and thank you so much, because God knows a lot of these families need as much help and support as possible. So thank you. And I also wanted to ask you a question. There's no new hires for El Granada? Thank you for doing this, because I always end up I'm really bad with names, so I'm like, who's that? Who was that? Or I always have to like say, who's that guy over there? So is there anybody in El Granada?
Yeah, so, yeah. Well, that's right. I knew that oh my gosh, thank you, because I thought that we were maybe missing somebody and I couldn't remember who it was. And Catalina has been phenomenal. I mean, she's somebody who she came. That's right. That's how it happened, because she was supposed to go somewhere else, and then a couple folks were going to go other places, and then kind of in looking at the enrollment numbers and where folks needed to land, and when you have to do that kind of dance. So yeah, that's exactly right. And Catalina actually moved up here from SoCal, and she loves it, and she says that the community has been incredibly welcoming. And she's been amazing. And when I met her in the district office, she was like, "Oh my God, Bianca!" We just had this really nice meeting, and the staff at El Granada has been really warm and welcoming to her. And I reach out to make sure that folks are feeling supported, and I know that our principals are really keeping an eye out for our newbies and making sure that they're feeling supported. And I also want to thank our partners, because I know our partners are as well. And that includes everyone from the folks who are cleaning the schools, who are greeting our new practitioners and creating welcoming environments for them, to, their CUTA or CSEA presidents. It's everybody. And I think when we say community, we really need to be intentional and remember that it is everybody. So,
yeah. One last one. Is there a community liaison now at El Granada? And can we?
Hilda.
Okay, thank you.
I actually do, because when we're talking about that, there's a lot of people who aren't new hires because they were already working in the district. So for example, all of our classified subs, or almost all of our classified subs, are now moving into the ECE program, which has left a gap for our classified subs, but that's the way it should be. Because we've got folks who really want to join our program, and we want to create pathways, and we want to be welcoming, and we want to reach out. And we want to say, how can we support you to have these positions? And in particular, I'd like to thank Diane Paoli and our CSEA partners when some stuff happened over the summer where we were told some stuff by our credential folks at the county, and then it turned out to not be accurate. And then the chief credential person there and I had a conversation in the Taco Bell parking lot, and I had to really quickly move a lot of pieces, and it felt a little bit like quicksand. And Dr. Bathio was actually out, and she called me up at night on her cell after she put her kids to bed to help me thought partner and figure out how we were going to solve this. And, our CSEA partners were incredibly supportive as we figured it out, and everybody was really assuming positive intention.
Thank you for doing this.
All I got to say.
Yeah, no, thank you for doing this. This is really, really helpful.
Wait, don't leave yet.
I also have one, just a last comment. I really appreciate everything that you're doing. And it's just interesting it's very heartwarming and just nice to see people coming from the outside and complimenting our community and really looking at, the bigger picture and all the great people that, that we are, and how grateful we are to have outside people like Dr. McFetridge and Doctora Leticia Batia, and yourself, and many of the other teachers and staff, and just coming in and just embracing us with open arms. So I think for you to say you're not part of our community is not true. I think, once you've created this and helped our kids and helped our community, by my book, you're part of our community as well. So thank you for all of that. And one last thing, what's this?
Bueno. So I'm very it's like this, happy hands, or basically, well, whatever. When you're in a meeting where I come from in my last educational context and other people are speaking and you want to recognize that something is resonant for you that they're saying, but you don't want to interrupt them, but you just want to lift and give some glow, then you just do a little this or you do happy hands. So I'm just like that all the
No,
time
no,
anyway.
it's okay. I was like,
Es un placer.
is she trying to remember something?
No,
I
es
was
vale,
like,
es fenomenal.
okay,
Quiere
okay.
decir wow,
Okay,
¿de acuerdo?
okay, okay. Thank
So
you.
it's like that. It's really a recognition and it's a way to glow up for folks. And I do think, actually, since we're on the point, that we always have an opportunity to glow up with each other in the community.
So, want to second, third, fourth, the appreciation and thanks. It's kind of redundant at this point, but just wanted to say, I want to say thank you for, all that you've done over the last year. So just to echo what other people have already said, but so that's given. I had kind of a comment, question, suggestion.
Yeah.
I met a woman this summer who was studying to be a nurse in Connecticut, and she told me that in Connecticut, they will actually, through the state schools, you can have free education to become a nurse or a teacher. And I just thought, that's brilliant, to have state schools provide an education so that kids don't have to go into debt. We are hearing all about student loan and everything that's happening. So I just, kind of the question is there anything like that being talked about in California? Because you talk about barriers to equitable teaching and having that kind of, being able to have that ability to not have to have a student loan when you come out. I think you then have to serve as a teacher probably in the state for a while. I don't know how it works exactly. But anyway, some thought for research or activity on a state level. Just wanted to kind of mesh those things together because I think that would be a brilliant idea.
So, true story. I was researching tonight on when our FRL, free and reduced lunch applications, are due for our Title I funding. Because the reality is, thank you, Principal Boyson and Vice Principal Jennifer Shun, who I think is, really leading that charge at Half Moon Bay High School. But, the reality is that funds for everybody, funds for students, funds for programs, funds for teachers are coming out of those title monies. And those are some things that, irrespective of, administrations and winds changing in Washington, D.C., have remained stable for the last 30 plus years. So Title I funding, if you agree to work in a Title I site, then all of your student loans, not 50%, not 25%, everything will get paid back. In addition to that, we did join the county consortium. I was going to write the grant myself, but then literally the CTC came out with the grant and it was due a week later. And yeah, but in any case, the county Office of Education was already, they had already joined and they had already been accepted and we are part of their grant. So that means that our folks who put in their applications, and we have 2 people who are in the running for the CTC, the Classified Teacher Grant that I talked about, I think, last spring. So there's that money, and I think just really being transparent and lifting up to our parents, to our community, to our teachers, to everybody, how important it is for us not to lose our title status around our funding. So there's all kinds of organizations and coaching and the, BITSA clearing and all those kinds of things that are tied to title funds. And so long as we can make sure that we are being really intentional, really humble, and really respectful in supporting our families to fill out that document and fill that stuff out, it's going to have a positive impact. But I couldn't agree with you more about universal education. My own child is in the Teach for America program, and one of the reasons she chose that program is because of how much it's going to cost for grad school for her. And so that's a reality. So I agree. I told her if she wants to come teach math here, she always has a job.
I was just going to add that that's consistent with what I've heard too, that there's some talk about maybe expanding the financial benefit in terms of college costs for people that go into the profession, but also I think there's an emerging effort around teacher residency programs, and I'm not familiar with the program that you described, if that's more offset for loans or even the San Mateo County has a program with Alder Graduate School to support the training piece of what educators need to do to get their credential. And so part of it's also not asking people to work for free, basically, and paying them for that 5th year of college education rather than them having to pay a school to go work somewhere, allowing them to get paid. So it's kind of like not having a 5th year of unpaid schooling. So sounds like there's definitely some emerging stuff, but I think it's, just starting to scratch the surface.
That's right. We lost one of our folks, our fabulous sub. I wanted her to get into the San Francisco State program, but she's in that teacher residency program. She's very happy. We continue to text. She's going to come back to Cabrillo. That's my long-term plan. She's from the community. She wants to serve in the community.
Bianca, I just wanted to talk to you about all the different channels that you're looking at. I mean, one channel's not working. You're doing so much extra, going to Sacramento. I know you got the Mexico thing, San Francisco State. Like, I think that really makes a difference. I mean, I realize you're working like a dog. She works like a dog, as do others here and many of our staff. People are working like dogs here, but I just want to bring that up because I think that's a part of why you're being so successful, and I think it's going to lead to success in the future too, because you're going to have all these contacts. So all those different channels, it's a huge amount of work, but I really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, to your point about the consent agenda and all the work that goes into that, it did not go without notice that there were several student-teacher contracts there. I was like, another one? So I think, that's also, just as you said earlier, building your pipeline where you bring people in as student teachers, you bring people in as substitute teachers, like that's the first step. And when you have a good, strong community, that's how you keep them and they learn and grow, and that's good for everyone, so.
And I do think we should give a little shout out, especially me, to give a shout out to Ms. Acosta, because Rosie puts all that together, and our agenda stuff has to shift, and mine has shifted more than anybody else's as the things have changed, and I'm learning also. Part of it's also the curve, and so she's been incredibly, supportive. So I have massive, big ups, big lows, because, as we get everything figured out so that we can present to our community and to you all and to our students and be transparent, it is a tremendous amount of work that goes in, and she spends at least a full week every day, all day long, 8-hour days plus, figuring that stuff out and getting it all formatted correctly and in the right folders and on the website and according to the Brown Act and checking this, that, and the other. It is not insignificant. It's a heavy lift. So that's all. Okay, thank you, guys. Is there any other questions? Are there any other questions? Sorry. Okay.
This is not an action item, it's just a presentation. But Ms. Forrester, you're going to stay up here to do the approval of the Cabrillo Unified School District initial proposals for reopener negotiations with CUTA next. And I will say that that is an action item. There is a board memo, explains it. They show us theirs, we show them ours, you got to see it. You are basically approving our initial proposal of what the items we're opening. This won't be a long presentation because I don't think it is probably much to say other than they've opened certain articles, we've opened certain articles for negotiation for the coming year, and I doubt that the board will want to go too deep into that. But Bianca, do you want to talk about this item? And then the board will need to vote for action on this one.
So just very briefly, on behalf of the district, we request that the board accept our initial proposal of the Cabrillo Unified School District Association to the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association. Sorry, this Cabrillo Unified School District to the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association. So pursuant to Article 23, Section 23.2 of the Cabrillo Unified School District's collectively negotiated agreement with the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association, CUTA, and Government Code Section 3547, the district proposes to negotiate the following as part of the reopener negotiations for the 22-23 school year. That's a lot. Article 23, duration and reopeners, Section 23.2.1 of the CBA provides that for the 22-23 school year, reopener negotiations shall occur on Article 2, compensation, and Article 3, health and welfare benefits, and up to 2 additional articles selected by each party. Article 4, leaves of absence. The district seeks to revise the leaves of absence section to conform to law and bring clarity to inconsistent provisions, including but not limited to parental, personal necessity, and personal leave. Article 12, hours of employment and working conditions. The district would like to propose some revisions revisions to the articles around collaboration time, professional development, teacher work hours, and schedules to help achieve district values. The district looks forward to straightforward, constructive, and expeditious negotiations with the CUTA Association.
Thank you, Bianca. I'll take a motion and a second, please, so we can discuss.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kimberly, and thank you, Sophia, for second that.
Questions or discussion on this item? Okay, if there's none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Rosie?
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Thank you. Passes 5+1.
Thank you, Ms. Forrester. And as Mr. Reardon said earlier, Ms. Forrester will serve as chief negotiator. It was not common, it's not standard practice that a superintendent serve as chief negotiator in the district. For the last 3 years, I've done that. I'm very pleased that Ms. Forrester can serve in that role going forward. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for all you've done. I cannot thank Ms. Forrester enough just on this front and on the update about staffing. Her attitude, her can-do attitude, her positive attitude, her dedication to others, to service, and to teamwork, I think has been a fantastic compliment to the district and to us as a community. So thank you very much, Ms. Forrester.
Thank you. Have a nice night, all.
Thanks, Bianca.
If you don't see me out
thanks,
here,
Ms. Forrester.
it's actually my husband's birthday, so I might leave a little early.
It's a directive for you to leave now, please. Thank you very much.
Dr. McFetridge.
Say hi to Glenn for us.
Okay. Have a nice evening, all. Get home safe.
Thanks. Okay, our next item is an action item, approval of the 2021-22 unaudited actuals.
Tonight, we will be hearing a presentation on unaudited actuals from Interim Chief Business Officer Jennifer Marsh. We've been so fortunate over the last 5 months to have Jennifer as our Interim Chief Business Officer. She is Jesus Contreras' right-hand person, left-hand person, along with Holly Lynn, along with Diane Paoli, Stephanie Paoli. Jesus is very lucky to be able to work with all these fantastic people. Jesus actually was with us visiting yesterday. He's not back at work yet, but I know Jennifer is looking forward to him returning to share in some of the work. But Jennifer, I just want to thank you for your presentation tonight to the board on the unaudited actuals closing the year last year.
Thank you. I get to follow Bianca. I too love this community.
Well, we should say too, Jennifer not only loves this community, but is a product of the school district and a community member. So Jennifer, we know your dedication and loyalty for how many years working with the district?
16.
Says a lot.
Thanks. Good evening. Tonight I am presenting the 2021-22 unaudited actuals. And Rosie, if you wouldn't mind helping me move slides. So this is our 22-23 budget cycle. Last board presentation was estimated actuals and adopted budget, and tonight we're doing the unaudited actuals of 21-22. In December will be the audit report for 21-22 and first interim budget, which I have already started working on. So unaudited actuals. As the district closes the fiscal books for 2021-2022, the board is presented for consideration the actual close of books with comparison to the estimated actual values projected in June. Estimated actuals are projected estimated ending balances for revenue and expenditure accounts based on what is known as of May 31st. District staff, 5 members of our business department, then close out the year, process invoices and final payroll, continue to review accounts and balances, and receive updated local, state, and federal revenues. It's a lot of work. It is. So this slide here just represents where we were at estimated actuals compared to where we ended at unaudited actuals. In revenue, it was a $562,000 decrease than what we projected, and expenditures was an increase of $356,000. Overall, we were $1 million less on our ending fund balance, and this is both restricted and unrestricted balances. One of the contributing factors was our annual taxes coming in lower than the projection. We projected a 4% ongoing growth, and annual taxes came in $845,000 less. So they basically came in at 1% instead of the 4%. This is Fund 1 of the unaudited actuals, revenue, expenditures. You can see a full report in the board packet. And if you go to the second page, the next page, have the unassigned ending fund balance of 21-22 is 1.8 million. 22-23 budget will be 203,000 is our unassigned ending fund balance, and that's after meeting the 3% reserve.
I told Jennifer I would jump in here.
Please do.
Thank you. This is where I get to do the inflection point, so thank you for giving me the liberty to speak to this. Sometimes Jennifer has such an acumen, such a knowledge of the budget and the numbers, and I just need to kind of put it in plain speak. When we talked in May and June of last year, and throughout last year, we heard, the projections are too low. The market is great. The real estate market is great. The taxes are going to come in higher. There's something called an assessed values calculator that people kept pointing to us, other superintendents, other chief business officers throughout the county saying, look at the taxes, they're going up, they're going up. And we'd always had a 2% projection for growth. And people told us it was too conservative. And we wound up with the AB 1200, putting a 4% projection. And of course, that was what allowed us to show a clean bill of health financially to be able to afford what ostensibly was a 5.29% raise to every employee and a $2,000 bonus to every employee last year. And in May and June, we said, okay, there is another pot of money that is coming in that will be categorical, be used for restricted purposes, including operational. And I said to the board, that's the keep the wolves from the door money. That's the money that if we wind up short in the taxes, we can use that money. Well, what you don't see in all these numbers is, but what you just heard from Ms. Marsh, and thank you, Jennifer, for saying it, is guess what? The projections that we had that were conservative, they weren't even conservative enough. And so what you heard was, yeah, you're going to run out of runway. You're going to run out of money. And people get used to the superintendent. Oh, I always say this. I hear it all the time. But the numbers don't lie. It's a math problem. So I say that all to say that this is unaudited actuals, and this is truing up the budget, and what Jennifer has done over the last 3 months, because I've been asking her, did our taxes come in? Did our taxes come in? Did our taxes come in? I'm so sorry that I didn't give Jennifer much of a summer, because I would always be saying, did our taxes come in? And we kind of, we're on pins and needles. Is this going to be enough? Is going to come in at 4%? That'd be fantastic. When we showed the AB 1200 of the 4%, we had a good clean budget. But at 2%, and I think I put this out in our negotiations updates last year, at 2%, we would have been $1.5 million in the hole in the third out year. It's worse than that. It's worse than that. So I love hearing about teamwork, and I love hearing about inquiry, and I love hearing about working together to make sense of things together. And I love especially Half Moon Bay High School's kindness campaign and the idea that we're all going to be kind and we're all going to learn from one another. But I just want to put it out there. My experience in the business, my experience in life is that when there's resource dependence and when the money comes short, it can get challenging. So Jennifer and I have swallowed hard several times this summer getting ready for this presentation, and we will not have a trued up multi-year projection really till later in the year. But I just want to say it. We're getting less money than we expected. We're getting less money than people thought was our projection that was supposed to be conservative. People can believe me or they can not believe me, but the numbers don't lie. And the taxes that we are getting from the county as a basic aid district will wind up probably putting us into a flipper position where we go back to state funding. And then we get like a $250,000 stabilization. I think that's what it is. Am I getting that right? No. When we flip back into state funding, we get a little bit more money. Then we flip back into basic aid. This is going to be a wild ride. Put your seatbelt on. And I just want to say thanks so much, Jennifer, for having a calm, analytical mind and presenting the numbers, which is her job. And then I just need to put it in sort of perspective, which is this board will have some challenging decisions ahead, and we've been through it before and we can weather it again, but there will be challenging decisions again. I reckon that we will have difficult decisions to make, and that's about it.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Not yet, Kim.
Oh.
Let her finish, and then we'll do a motion in a second. Oh, unless, is it appropriate to do now?
Actually, I was going to go back a slide also. I did want to point out on what Sean was saying. So this is a comparison to the adopted budget. And the 22-23 adopted budget is still on a 4% growth. And that can't be adjusted until we do first interim. So just to think about that. Okay. This is really just informational, ending balances of all the other funds in the district. If you want any more information, I'm happy to provide it. And our next steps. So we have to submit unaudited actuals to San Mateo County Office of Education by September 15th. And our next update is first interim, which is as of October 31st, presented at December board meeting. Like I said, I've already started working on it. We really want to do the best accurate first interim report that we can provide. We're going to continue to watch expenditures, revenues, enrollment, attendance, ADA, start tightening the belt where we can. And do you have any questions for me?
Thank you very much. I'll make a motion to approve this since it's an action item. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Thank you, Kimberly, for those who are listening, watching us on Pacific TV.
So thank you, Jennifer, for queuing all this up for us. And I know this is not for the faint of heart, and it's hard. So thank you so much. When we look at the changes in revenue on slide 5, we see projected at 4% ongoing growth, and we see 29.6 million. And then the actual annual taxes received 28.7. Because we see projected at 4% ongoing growth, and what I heard you say was that we only had 1%, is beneath these numbers like a formula of what the base, otherwise LCFF, would be then plus the tax? Because that's 845.8 thousand. The difference isn't like 1 to 4 here. So I'm just trying to understand.
Well, the 845,000 is the
It was lower.
3% difference of the 1% that came in to the 4% that was projected.
It's 1% of like the total budget. It's not comparing those two numbers, right?
Okay, because yeah, and I'm just thinking, I don't know how you would show that, but maybe there's another, to show how that building block works.
There is.
Might help with the public understanding too. So, thanks.
I was first going to thank you again, as I said for Leticia, so much of what you do and so much of what your CSEA colleagues do is like 99% of the public has no idea the complexity and difficulty. And I'll say, if anyone wants to know another example, it's like how much you're doing around COVID relief funding management and those like multiple buckets and what's going where and when, like phenomenal and amazing and complex. And thank you for doing that, because I know we have you're both the substitute Jesus and your day job.
Yes.
So there's no like, magical person. So I just want to thank you so much, because I can't imagine how you do all that you're doing right now. And your staff too, I'm sure is like, also sharing in that. So I just want to say first, like a huge, huge, huge thanks, because I know that's really, really appreciated for sure. And just, to your point about the 4% and the 1%, I think it's just always a reminder that, that's that saying in finance that past performance is not an indicator of future results. We just need to always remember that. And it's easy to get caught up in the ebullience of, oh, great, the market's selling, Mary Beth's doing her job, and they're, out there in real estate land. But then we got to remember, okay, inventory is kind of plateauing. There's not much left to sell. Let's be cautious, think about the future, right? Not just the past and what's been happening in the past and assuming it's going to continue. So thank you for that commentary around, and Dr. McFetridge too, around that piece. Also around that big complicated chart, the detailed one on slide 6, because, I always read them. Just to understand some of the numbers there, it looks like if we look at kind of the deficit spending numbers, and just correct me if I'm wrong, we deficit spent 3.1 million last year. So another, which is that net decrease in fund balance is 3.1 million, which means we spent 3.1 million more than came in, including the transfer to the cafeteria fund, which is typical for school districts because you generally run that at a loss.
Yes.
So I just want people to understand 3.1 million more than we brought in. And our reserves at the start of this year, which is that kind of item FE, adjusted beginning balance, fell from 38% in 1 year. So it went from 8.1 million to 5 million. In other words, we spent 30%, or almost half of our reserves in 1 year. So that's pretty big. Yes. I mean, if you think about that as a family, can you imagine? We had our savings account and all of a sudden, almost half of it's gone in 1 year.
Well, I will say too, this has been a debate in this district, and the board has had to hear this, on different sides. There's counterpoints, right? That this is a rainy day fund, and it's a rainy day, and we have to spend the reserve for employees. And I think that is what you did. We made recommendations last year and we went through negotiations, and it is true. We went to impasse. Mr. Reardon mentioned it before, and had to, get someone to help out with that, and then negotiated at the table. And it wasn't the second time. It was the second time we did it. And this board did approve raises for employees. And the biggest expense that you saw, that was the increase of expense over last year, was basically accounting for that. And so I want to credit the board for taking care of our employees, because I think it matters. And I do think that because of that is also why, we are able to creep and get closer to sort of parity with other districts in the county that are funded much better than we are. And maybe that is part of parcel, not Bianca Forrester's personality and hard work of why we're able to recruit people this year. But it is true that if you look at the expenses and if you look at where we spent the money, we made investments, you made bets, we made recommendations to you, and we made bets on more money than we received, and now we have to account for that. And now we have to make decisions going forward. I do want to say that I don't think that this is going to be, as much as I hear it in the last item and in Mr. Reardon's comments, I don't think this is going to be expeditious. I don't think it's something that we can just say, poof, a miracle happens and we're going to spend money you don't have. So I will look forward to recommending to the board going forward when we have time to actually know what money we can expect. But it is true, everything you said, Ms. Lane. We spent a lot of money last year on ostensibly 5.29% raise for every employee, plus a $2,000 bonus. And the 2 years previous, we provided a 3% raise for a total of an 11.29% raise, plus a $2,000 bonus to every employee if working over those 3 years. And that is where you see the shortfall. That is where you see the expense, and that's the expenses. And then, you know, we hoped that our projections would have been not as conservative as we did, and we made that bet, and then they came in more conservative than we had projected. So that is the reality of it. I wish I don't have control over it, and that's kind of what this business is about: is negotiating, getting to that place where we make decisions, we make recommendations, and hope for the best. And in this case, you didn't get the best.
So just two pieces to add to that. Thank you very much. One, in addition to that 38% decrease in the reserves from 8.1 to 5.0 million in 1 year, if I understand correctly, where that leaves us this year, at the end of this year with the unaudited actuals, is a reserve of $200,000, which is basically like error margin for like a $40 million budget. That's basically zero. I mean.
What is, yeah, but what is not accounted for here, and I think this is important to remember, and Jennifer and I were just on a call last Friday. What's not accounted for this is that there is funding that was just approved by the legislature last week. And it is that funding that we had talked about in May and June that I call keep the wolves from the door money. Because it is able to be used for operational costs, including retirement benefits and health benefits. And so what I would say is that if you look at this, that's not a rosy picture, but it's not an accounting, a full accounting of the money we're going to receive yet from the state. So that's what we have to wait on. And then once we can figure that out, we can bring to the board, hey, we think this is where it's going to show in the multi-year projections. But it is going to take.
Will it be ongoing or one time?
It's one time to be used over the next 3 years. So it is not going to address the deficit spending that has existed in this district. Look, none of this is pretty for me to say. None of this is like something we want to say. But the truth of the matter is, we're still not funded in the way that other districts are, so we still don't pay employees the same way that other districts do, and we still have made other investments that we think are important to balance the needs of students and families and staff. So, but to your point, Ms. Hines, yes, that money is going to be one-time money, and it is locked into particular purposes. It can't be used for some things, but because we know it can be used for retirement benefits and health benefits, that will help us defray some of the other costs and may save our bacon and keep the wolves from the door, if you'll take my kind of aw shucks kind of like language there. That's what we're looking at. And that's kind of what I said to you back in May and June. Hey, look, this looks like what this looks like, but there's that money. That money will be your insurance policy. The truth of the matter is, I'm in the business to sort of prepare for the worst. And so last May and June, I was like, okay, worst things happen. That's going to be the money we'll use to shore up our budget. And you aren't seeing that in this today. So when you mention about what's going to be in our reserve at the end of this year, hard telling, not knowing, because literally last week they approved in the legislature this money, and now we have to see how much we'll get of it. And then we'll have to do the hard work with Jennifer and Jesus when he returns to say, okay, how can we park that money here, here, and here? And how does that keep us in a closer space? But I think we will need to look at budget cuts and efficiencies and make some hard decisions ahead.
And I think it's also important to note that that's restricted funds, the money you're talking about.
Yeah, it's only to be able to be used for certain things.
So I think that's helpful to know, and I think once we see what those numbers actually are, see how much that one-time funding, as Kim points out, offsets our short-term recurring costs of payroll, basically. and pension contributions and health benefits, et cetera. It'll be interesting to see how much of this restricted funding up, like basically with all the strings attached, can offset this ongoing thing in the short term, because we know it's not going to fix the long term. So I just want to put that out as a caution that there's some hope for some short, like a Band-Aid.
That's what it is.
But the bleed, if we're still bleeding, $3 million a year.
And again, one of those points that it's not a bad thing to take back to our representatives, that if you give us one-time funding and it can only be used on a number of things, and one of those things is health care or health benefits, since when would you do one-time funding for health benefits and not have a sustainable funding stream for a health benefit? I mean, that's the kind of the absurdity of what we're given to work with.
I think, Kim, you're exactly right, which is, at the end of the day, what you're saying is this one-time or ongoing funding? This will be one-time funding. You're not seeing it tonight. It will save us in the short term, but in the long term, these are decisions we will have to make. We have to stop deficit spending. And I think in the last 3 years, we've done a good job. I think 11.29% for staff as far as wages, plus last year's $2,000 bonus, I think is a good job. But I will also say that with the state funding going up, there's going to be a lot of people expecting a lot more money in raises. And it just is going to have to be the math problem of looking at the budget and having the board decide, with your fiduciary responsibility, what is affordable, and not looking at it just in the short term, but looking at it in the long term, and accounting for what is one-time dollars that are restricted as opposed to ongoing money. I wish that we had come in at a 4%, projection of increase. It didn't come in at that. I wish that the conservative projection of 2% had come in at that. It didn't come in at that. We had no understanding of that. Everybody told us 2%, 2%, and we kept seeing that assessed values calculator going up. We wanted to take care of our staff and employees. We did so. I feel good about that, but now I feel like, okay, now we have to be cautious. I think that's fair. And I also expect that, and I'm totally okay with the fact that there are going to be folks who will be skeptical and won't believe it. But at the end of the day, we will continue to work to bring you what we have to present to the county and what is just math about expenses and revenues that Jennifer does a great job of doing. And then you will need to make decisions based on our recommendations about the go forward. And I don't want to fast forward. What I want to say is we are truing up the unaudited actuals. We are seeing that it is not as pretty a picture as we could even paint in the spring or in June. And it's going to be a wait and see, and I'm prepared to be in the inquiry of it.
I have a comment which I don't really think I need to say, but I feel like it's important, so I want to say it. When our estimates were at that 2%, I mean, this is for my fellow board members, we received a lot of pressure for those to go up to 4%. And I think as a board, we really need to stick together on, what we're hearing, what's going on out there. And we can't be pushed about, what we think or what might happen, that we have to stick with conservative estimates. And even what we thought was a conservative estimate was not conservative enough. It's better to be conservative than be in debt. So I just really feel like we need to stay strong when we're pushed with something that could lead us down a bad path as a board.
And I think that's important as well, because I think we lived not too long ago the consequences and how painful it is to, I don't want to hear the CUTS word, right? But it's something that we have to constantly be looking. And yes, we're always looking at efficiencies. That's every single day we're looking at efficiencies. But I don't think we want to be in that danger zone ever again of $2 million tomorrow. That's not a good place to be.
That's horrible.
So I just want to support that. Thank you, Mary Beth.
Okay. Anyone else?
I know it's a sobering conversation. I want to thank Jennifer Marsh for the work she does. I want to thank her especially for standing up during Mr. Contreras's need to be home, recovering after what ostensibly was a near fatal accident back in May, was it? Seeing him yesterday and the day before and this morning, briefly, just because he was coming in to visit. I saw Dr. Bhatia, her eyes light up when she saw our colleague, and I know the business services folk were happy to see him, but I did sit with Jesus and say, you know, you're lucky to be alive. He's lucky to be walking. I know he wants to come back to work here. I know Jennifer and your colleagues are looking forward to being able to go back to some of your older work. And not, I mean, Jennifer has stepped up for us this summer, and I got to tell you, I said, well, now you're acting like a chief business officer, working with the custodians, working with the maintenance staff, working with the food service staff. Stephanie stepping up as our new food service coordinator. You've got a fantastic team. You've done a lot of hard work. And there's going to be a lot of hard work ahead, and I don't want to be a downer about this, but the money always feels hard to take, and, you know, we're here to explain as much as we can to the public and the staff we serve about where the money is, where it's coming in, how it's spent, and I didn't want to have this sobering a conversation. We'll have a much better conversation, I think, when we're looking at the beautiful architectural renderings for El Granada coming up. But Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for the work you've done over these last 5 months as interim chief business officer, particularly.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Those bad numbers, but all the good work. Okay, and with that, I think we'll wrap it up and vote on this. Rosie, please.
All right. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Okay, passes 5+1.
We need a 5-minute bio break real quick. Can we do that real quick?
The board
We got
will
one more
take
thing.
a
I'm
recess
sorry.
for 5 minutes.
Okay, moving on to our last agenda item. It is a presentation, Quatraki Quack Architect. Wait, what? Oh, I missed that, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I crossed it off by accident. Okay, second to last. Jumping the gun. Adoption of resolution number 19-2022, approving the GAN limit for the 2022-23 fiscal year.
I just looked at Ms. Marsh and said, are you doing this? Because I would do it, and I think last time we had to present this, I did this one. And she's like, oh, no, you do it. Okay, I'll do it. The GAN limit, as I understand, as I recall, was approved like decades ago in the state, and it basically says, you know, every organization, every district is not going to spend more than X amount, and this is a pro forma, state-required resolution that we have to do every year, and I was talking to Jesus about it yesterday. He's like, what's on the board meeting? I'm like, well, there's the unaudited actuals. He's like, oh yeah, did you see those? I'm like, you're not supposed to be working, sir. I was like, yes, I've seen them. Yes, I've been sweating over them since like they got realized. And then he's like, what else? And I described other things, the good news. And then and then he's like, what else? I said, oh, the GAN limit. And basically, Jesus, what do I say? But this is like some pro forma thing that we bring to the board. You guys know what it is. It's the state and the legislature decades ago told us that it was what we do to say that we'll spend within our means or not overspend. And every year we comply with the state, and we ask you to approve the resolution of the GAN limit, and I won't read it.
All right, thank you. Motion is second?
So moved. I'll second.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Sophia.
Any discussion on this? No? Okay, Rosie will vote.
Yes. Since this is a resolution, we're going to be doing roll call. Mary Beth?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Kimberly?
Aye.
Lisette?
Aye.
Catalina?
Aye.
The item passes 5+1.
Thank you, and I don't mean to be flip about it, but the board knows what this is and has seen it over and over again, and it is sort of like a bureaucratic hoop we jump through. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're on to our last item. Kotake Kwok Architects presentation on El Granada Elementary School Modernization Phase 1, and we do have a public comment on this, which I'd like to bring Brianna LaFontaine up now. If you could just hold on one second and let Brianna make her comment.
Do you want to, well, let's ask Brianna. Brianna, do you want to make your comment before the presentation, or do you want to hear the presentation and then make your comment? Typically, we do the presentation and then we take the public comment.
I'm sorry. Because then
I am okay with it. My comment doesn't have to do with her presentation. It's about the construction. So I don't know how.
Well, she's talking about construction. Just sometimes they kind of answer some of it, and it might change what you want to ask.
Sure.
Okay. Just in case it might change what you want. I'm sorry, that's my fault. That's 2 scripts in 3 minutes. I jumped the gun again.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay.
I can't take a bio break.
That's okay, and I want to thank, no, that's okay, and I want to thank Brianna as PTO president from El Granada for being here and being engaged. And I think I saw you at the back to school night as Brianna's vice president. I've forgotten your name, but Molly, thank you so much for being here too.
So, I don't know how do you work this? Is it on? It's on. Wow. Okay, now we'll show my technology challenged self. This is just back and this is forward, right? Oh, but I have to do it towards you and not towards the screen. All right. We're good. Oh.
I think the architectural renderings are so beautiful, I think that's probably good.
So, we'll just jump right into it. Some of the topics that we're going to cover are just here, just an overview of the project. We're going to review the master plan, which is what we've been working on with the district for a couple of years now. And those slides you've seen before, and then we're going to move into the Phase 1 drawings for the new classroom building at El Granada, which you haven't seen before. So I wanted to remind everybody of the priorities that we came up with the site committee, through the site committee that we met with 2 years ago now, community meetings, and a lot of other meetings with the district and site staff, teachers. We identified these priorities, and so this is what I like to measure our design against. Are we are we fulfilling these priorities that the district has, and board has identified for us? This is the master plan that we came up with a couple years ago. You'll see it says from the April 2021 board meeting. So the master plan is a document that we try to revisit every 5 years or a little bit shorter than that to make sure that what we do fits in with the board's priorities for the long term. And those things change. You know, that's why we want to re-look at this every few years so that you can adapt your master plan to whatever your current, you know, to changing priorities and goals. So now we're getting into how that translates into phase one of the project. And it doesn't look like this is the best slide here. I don't know if I can, is there a way to enlarge this at all?
I think there's
or
a slide before that, isn't there? In the packet.
There's a slide before this one. There's two of these, so we're going to get, there's another one that comes in more, ooh. I don't know how I did that. Right? Okay. So if you if you zoom back out, Rosie, I think the next slide is going to take care of that, of the zoom. Yeah. So this was a slide we were on, right? The first slide that I was on, this one. Okay. So this is an overall site plan showing the location of the new classroom building and some of the other things that are included in phase one. So that includes the parking area, drop-off, pickup, some outdoor areas, bicycle access connected to the new path that's being put in. There's a lot of outdoor learning pieces there. This is just some more, a couple of photos, and then pointing out potentially where we're planning to put the trash enclosure, the new parking lot, and you can see that there's a lot of code-required upgrades in there, which include accessible drop-off, accessible parking, and also EV parking. Closer into the building area, there's an area for an outdoor garden. All the classrooms have outdoor areas connected to them for learning, for playing, for just being outside, because one of the priorities that we heard was that the kids at El Granada go outside regardless. It's an outdoor-centric school, and the whole site needs to be part of the learning opportunities there. So we're trying to connect those as much as possible, indoors and outdoors. So here's a blow-up of the building. It has 4 general education classrooms. Two of each share a breakout space. And then there are 3 specialized classrooms, which are music, art, and science on this document. And then we originally had another classroom, but in order to save money and give you better facilities, we put the restroom in this building. It's a lot easier and more cost-effective to build restroom facilities new rather than modernize. Where we originally had this placed was in the building that now houses your library, and so we are saving some money by putting that in this facility, and you'll get it sooner, and you can eliminate the old toilet building that you have there. These are some images that we used as inspirational images for the materiality of the building. So a lot of it is, you recognize on the upper right, the Half Moon Bay Library, which is an absolutely beautiful building right across the street here. And we heard a lot of good things about it from the community, and we also love it. So that was some of our inspiration in the way we approach this building. And so some of the materials that we're showing here are not quite the same as the Half Moon Bay Library, because I think their budget was a little bigger than ours. But we have regular cement plaster, but we're making it vertical raked plaster, and that's just for a richness of, it's just cement plaster, but it looks more like stone or concrete. And then we have the horizontal stone image there that we're using, we're proposing to use a sort of cement product for that. And then just some wood, some things that are simple, natural materials is what we heard from all the groups that we spoke to, and what we also love. So here's a rendering that we had done at a schematic level from the courtyard side of the building. So the ocean is beyond the building. One of the things that we heard was that there should be more access to the coast from all the classrooms and from the school site in general, and access to the outdoors. So we strung this building kind of longish along the coast so that all the classrooms in the new building have a view to the outdoors, and there's little window pockets for between this building and the adjacent building for the remainder of the school to get a little bit better view towards the ocean too. But on this side of the building that's protected, there's also access to every classroom, and it's more sheltered. So that this area can be used for play, for projects, whatever teachers can imagine. We have little interstitial spaces in the little L's of these buildings that we imagine could be used for all different sorts of things. We're showing a couple of things here. You can see behind the person in the white shirt, I guess there's more than one people in the white shirt, but you can see on the wall, there's something that's mounted on the wall, which is a vertical garden. There's some seating over on the left, and also in addition to the concrete seat wall that's shown in the courtyard, these little spaces are available for the use of the teachers and kids. You can also see backpack hooks there along the building. So these are just blow-ups of how some of these things might look. The tiered seating, the vertical gardening space, and then just some ways of providing natural seating and different activities that can occur outside. This is a view from the coast, and we joke about this, the lush landscaping here. Our renderer swears these are all drought-tolerant coastal plantings, but I'm not quite sure yet. Anyway, but you can see on each corner of the classrooms, there's like a corner window, which on the inside you'll see provides a nice area for kids to sit, and I don't know, you can have all kinds of activities there, reading, little small groups, drawing, and you can see little pops of color that we propose to help identify the different buildings. This is a cutaway through 2 classrooms, and around the edges, around the border, excuse me, are, I always make fun of Steve Kwok when this happens to him at a presentation, but around the edges are colors that were inspirational colors, and the materials that we're proposing within those colors. Rosie, can you zoom in a little bit on the building itself? Because you can kind of see in the in the two classrooms and the relationship of so you can see there the relationship of the classroom to is that the next page, I think? Is this what I want? Yeah, just right there. So you can see the relationship of the little breakout room to the adjacent classrooms in there, in this slide. And in this slide, it's just a typical classroom, and what we're trying to show here is the richness of the different areas, and it's a very simple building, simple interiors, simple finishes, but over, you can see the corner window that we've kind of framed the window with cabinetry, and up above it, we have an acoustical product that it's kind of like a very, very thick felt, but it's good for sound attenuation, and it can make that space feel a little more quiet and just a different part of the classroom. This is a view of the restroom, just showing, this is a gender-neutral restroom. So on each side are the stalls, and the rendering doesn't show the lines very dark, but you can kind of see where the doors are. It's where there's little gaps. And those gaps, okay, the gaps under the door here are shown as kind of a minimum of what should I just go to the end, or do you want to do it? Okay, so anyway, what I just want to say is that those doors, the gap at the bottom and the top can be adjusted per your needs for what you want your kids to have in terms of privacy versus ability to see what's going on. Also, in the restroom has a lot of visibility from the exterior. It has like a storefront on the front. So even when the doors are closed, there are two double glass doors and glass side lights. And then when it's open, you still have the side lights. And the idea is for teachers to be able to have visibility into the restroom, but for the kids to have privacy as well. And this is the current cost based on our estimate, our third-party estimate for this phase of the building, which it's actually the same as it was for schematic design, which is good. I think this is self-explanatory. The per square foot costs here are what we'd expect, if not a little lower than we'd expect for this area right now. And then the next steps. One is board approval of design development phase, which is not on the schedule for tonight. Completing the phase 1 construction drawings and submitting to DSA for approval, which we're on schedule to do that. And then we are discussing with the board and the district is discussing the implications of TK and pre-K at El Granada. It's been mentioned that that needs attention, and we know that, and the district is working on that and hears that, and that's like it's a curveball, and it's an additional curveball that comes, I don't want to say it, in addition to this project. So we do want to acknowledge, though, that we're not, nobody's ignoring that. And then the other thing we have to discuss as next steps is the funding discussion. Any questions, thoughts?
I just want to thank Lyanne and her colleague, Mark Quattrochi. for the work that they've done to get to this place. This has been a long process. And I remember too well when we were getting the facilities master plan process started, which needed to happen so that we could get appropriate cost estimates and really know what would happen with enrollment. Enrollment has dropped at Fairlawn View and El Granada. It has stayed stable at Hatch mostly. The Half Moon Bay Review did an article on this recently, but we have seen a precipitous drop at Fairlawn View. Of course, we had right-sized that with the board when we were looking at facilities master plan. El Granada, we've seen a drop of, over the last 3 years, I think 50, 60 students. Cunha, we've seen a drop of almost 150 students. This is a demographer's kind of, projection that there's declining enrollment. We see it in the state. So I do appreciate still what a grand vision Lyanne and Mark have been able to create, basically based on conversations with the community. Lyanne, you worked very closely with Claire Beltrami, the principal, last year. As I said earlier, Erin O'Connor-Brown's coming in sort of like late in the game as a principal now this year. I do appreciate you bringing up the transitional kindergarten because we did hear some concerns about transitional kindergarten as we go to universal transitional kindergarten. But I guess what I want to say about that is remember the Hatch plan. When you modernized Hatch, that Hatch kindergarten wing came later as a phase 2. So I do think that this is what we talked about. This is what we envisioned over a year ago as what would be needed to replace the worst buildings on El Granada campus. I do think that this achieves all the goals that you had on the first page, Lyanne, of which I think are important, and I'm going to go ahead and reiterate them. Improve parking and student drop-off, remove those portable classrooms that are past their viable life, construct a new classroom building first before modernizing others, providing access to the outdoors with views to the ocean, making it an outdoor-centric school, an outdoor play, outdoor learning school, providing garden space, and then sustainability with regard to the site and the building, and making it more safe and secure. And we are actually also looking with Ronaldo Vesaliza, our construction manager. We have presented plans to Hatch leadership to talk about fencing the Hatch. And then part and parcel of this would be looking at shoring up safety and security for El Granada. And then next month, when Studio W comes to present on their plans for Fairlawn View, you will see similar. So I think it's a work in progress. We want to start construction in 2023. I did talk to Mark and Lyanne recently, and then I called Mark again from Quattrochi Quack and Associates. We know that we do need to come back for next steps to get final approval. But this is the sort of a great overview of it for now. And now, before I go any further, I think we do need to bring up Brianna LaFontaine now for her comment.
Thank you so much. Brianna, I'm a parent at El Granada Elementary and now a resident of El Granada. And I don't want to speak for all parents, but a lot of the parent feedback recently has what we would like to know the timeline. We have been told summer of 2023. I think I started this process when my son was in kindergarten, might have been the beginning of first grade. He's now a fourth grader. I love these renderings. I am so excited about what is coming. I would like to know the next part, and I see the next steps, but the construction people in our community and parents are saying, Brianna, if we're supposed to start, we're saying summer 2023, let's say June, the next 9 months, there's a lot that needs to be happening, and no one's told us that that is happening. So if we could get a presentation on that, like a background, like, okay, we expect to start in June, July, whatever, and we know that county approval takes this, and the environmental impact, and the who is our contractor, that would really put a lot of faith into the community surrounding our school. I'm in this for the long haul. My son's not going to see this school, but I still know that it's an amazing part of what is going to be in our community. So that's from our parents. Thank you.
If I may, I want to thank Brianna for being such a fabulous PTO president at El Granada, and I want to thank Molly, her colleague, for being here also, and your investment in the school, not just as a parent, but as a community member now. Ronaldo Vesaliza is here as our construction manager. There is a process ahead. There will be another presentation for the design development phase, and I think a lot of those questions will be answered. But Ronaldo, I don't know if you want to speak to this now, or if you want to wait, or.
Just to introduce myself. So my name is Ronaldo Vesaliza. I'm an architect and a construction manager, and I've been doing this for 45 years at various schools and all kinds of facilities. So the bottom line is, this is a design development phase that we're going through. We're pricing this now, and as we saw, we're very close to the budget that we started with. But we also have come up with some new ideas and new things that have to get done during the process, which normally are not accounted for when you initially approved this bond measure. Infrastructure and utilities on the site are going to be ripped apart and torn away and replaced with brand new utilities, so that when the next phase also happens to come, we don't have to dig it up again. And that's one of the things that we're discovering now, is how much infrastructure do we need to change. The other thing that we're working on is there are interim periods where some of these buildings will be torn down. A couple will be saved as temporary classrooms while we're building the new school, so we don't have to build any new facilities for that, and then tear those down afterward. The bottom line is the period that we know least about and can control least is the DSA approval period. DSA controls everything. They have their own schedules. I'm meeting with DSA next week to talk to them about all the projects that we are thinking about, so that they're aware and they will team up with us to help us expedite the process as much as possible. I've done this in the past with other schools. When you sit down with DSA and you talk to their specialists in various areas and tell them the big picture and show them what's coming up, so that they're aware of their side of the equation, of what they'll have to do to ramp up. DSA tends to be very busy for all these summer projects, because every school in the county and in the state wants to do the same thing at the same time. So I'm trying to set up a DSA process that will help the architects get through faster, be more coordinated with everything else we're doing, so there are no surprises with anyone. But that's our biggest question mark, as to how long will they take to do this. COVID has had a huge impact on how they work, whether they work. They've lost a lot of people in both DSA and county offices. It's true all around the plan check process. So they went virtual, which slowed it even further. And so now they're starting to come back, and they're starting to get organized again and realize that this is going to be a long-term commitment. And so they're starting to realize they can actually work faster using computers, virtual meetings. And so we're going to be seeing better results coming down the road. But to answer your question, make it short, we look forward to starting next spring to demolish the existing buildings, move people into, during the summer, into the new temporary facilities, because we have to build some temporaries. And then the construction will start, and it will take about a year to construct. So in '24, you will see the building complex finished by summer of '24. There are also site improvements that we're making in El Granada that include the parking lot, a new walkway, a new drop-off zone. There are community-related improvements that we're asking the county to make to improve access for the pre-Ks. So we'll have 2 entry points, reduce the load on one single entry point that we have now, and make them all DSA and ADA accessible, so that we don't have to go back and redo it. And then in the future, We'll have some upgrades for the existing buildings, incremental upgrades that we're looking for new funding to be able to, the state is, by the way, giving out lots of money right now to find energy-related savings. So we can improve the lighting, we can put in solar, and it'll be funded separately from the bond funding, so we can stretch our dollars as much as possible. So I don't know if that answers all your questions, but it's the closest we can give you right now. We will get more specific detailed schedules. We don't have a contractor. We're going to go out to bid when we do with a package. Probably in the next 6 months, while it's in DSA, we'll be getting bids so that we can get closer to the price line. And then once DSA approves it, then we'll have selected a contractor and run with that. So hopefully that answers.
A lot of the work that Ronaldo will be involved with QKA and Lyanne and Mark Quattrochi and the team, of course, will be setting up temporary housing as you prepare for demolition. I also want to just say, Brianna, I totally understand where families are with this, because this isn't my first go around with a large bond. Back in my old district in Alameda, we had 10 elementary schools, and every school got a little piece. And families would say, wow, that was crazy. We should have just done one school, and you would have had a perfect school. Instead, everybody gets a little piece. In this regard, what happened, I think, honestly, is Hatch got done first, and El Granada and Fairlawn View, and that's what I came in, in the district 3 years ago, people saying, why not, and tonight in the public comment at the beginning of the meeting, why not us, why not us? We wanted to make sure we did a careful plan. I think the renderings are beautiful. I think QKA is a good partner. They were a good partner also on the kindergarten wing over here at Hatch. I think it is going to be fantastic. But I also understand the frustration, which is people have to suspend their disbelief. Is this really going to happen? But I think Ronaldo being on board, which is great, and because of his experience, decades of experience as an architect and a construction manager, it's basically we need to set up temporary housing so that we can move people out of those really terrible portables that we're replacing, build the new building. It is going to be fantastic, but I do doubt that your daughter will see it, Brianna. But your son, and I go through this with one of your colleagues, a PTO president, former PTO president at Fairlawn View, and she always says, Sean, my kids aren't going to see it. I'm like, yeah, but I'm so sorry. This is kind of the way the process rolls. So thank you, Ronaldo. And Lyanne, I don't know if you want to take questions. Does the board have any questions?
To build on what Ronaldo said about DSA, the Division of State Architect, and they're going electronic over the past 2 years, we're finding that they are reviewing things a lot quicker than they used to be most of the time. On occasion, something will be there for a year, but we've also had luck with them getting their reviews back in like 2 months versus 5, which it used to be. So I'm really positive about the construction starting on schedule, for sure. Yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but yeah.
And compared to personal home buildings, DSA works a lot quicker than the county.
They do. And our contractors, our contractors also, the contractors that we work with for schools, they get done in a summer what a residential contractor takes a lot longer to get done. I don't know what their skill is, but they really just, a lot of crews on site at one time, which is why we need this guy too. Keep track of all those people. Any questions about the, yeah.
I was just going to thank you both, also Ronaldo for, and Lyanne for all the work you guys did. The design is really, I think, such a great way to address all the priorities that the community outlined. Just in terms of that U shape to maximize the visibility from each classroom to the ocean. The little breakout rooms, I think instructionally will be helpful to be able to not chart kids out 10 miles away for reading intervention or other interventions, which I know is not really the best thing for students on a number of levels. The gender neutral restroom, I just want to thank you so much for that too, and just the considerations of student privacy, but also safety and security for those common areas where often is where the trouble happens. So that was just, I think the designs are beautiful, the natural materials, but also really thoughtful and carefully considered with regards to like how they're going to be used. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. And you guys are part of the team.
Thank you for staying on budget, which is so far. And thank you also, I think with Ronaldo, you're speaking to us, it's like you can see the difference when you invest in staff that can do the job well. I feel really confident that we're gonna keep moving forward as well as can be done, knowing that not everything is in our control, but understanding the trends, that's the best we can do. And the closer you get, the more detailed you get. So now it's kind of like a ballpark, knowing this might make it faster, this might make it slower. And then as you get your contractor on board, then you have your like more solid timeline because they're actually going to do it. And once you figure out all the infrastructure pieces, and that also plays in, into the timeline. So it's really exciting to see it at this stage. And thank you, and let's keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, just a couple of quick questions. When you showed the concrete veneer, kind of horizontal feature, is that like a stone applied or a large wall that's pressed?
It's they're panels and it's concrete,
Okay. In our environment, some of those stones pop off really easily.
Yeah.
If it's-
And no metal on the exterior and,
Yeah, perfect. And one of as a neighborly appreciation, and I know, because I do have a lot of neighbors that do speak to me, on this site, I appreciate that we're generally within the footprint of we already have modulars there. There are already buildings there. So it's taking things out and putting things back in and staying within the same footprint.
and
so
much
it's-
nicer looking.
Yes, much nicer looking, yes. So thank you for that, and I think it's going to be a gorgeous campus when it's done. The one item that's outside of the current footprint is the location of the trash cans, the trash thing. So I would be interested in seeing that rendered.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because right now your trash is like right kind of,
Yeah, it's within the footprint, it's tucked up close to the building, but by bringing it up right on the street when you're coming in, it's like you're going to come off the highway and then you're coming in right by a trash can. Unless you're going to make that really aesthetically pleasing, that's what I'm going to look at
that's a
every
good
morning.
point. Yeah, because we wanted to move it because we didn't want it front and center for the people coming to the school, like.
Yeah, and I'll see it
Yeah.
24/7, front and center.
Oh, okay, got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be, yeah.
The other piece of it is, and again, I'm taking the landscape as notional. Now, some of them where you've got drought-tolerant plants.
Right.
That totally makes sense. In the parking lot, I've watched that parking lot for 20-plus years now. And I've seen things planted and trees and then not last and not taken care of. So if it's low shrub, I would not, if you're going to put trees somewhere else on campus, great, but I wouldn't try as populated as that notional site diagram is.
That is an excellent point, because there is a code requirement for shading of parking areas now. And so the concern about the trees is good. The landscape architect is, I believe he's local, but there's a code requirement for shade at parking lots now. I think
That's
it's 50%, yeah.
Aren't we doing solar, though? Isn't that shade if you do solar?
Well, the roofs
That's a
will,
whole other.
yeah, the whole solar exploration, I think we've talked about that a little bit. It depends on the grants we could get from the state. And because all roofs on new construction have to be solar ready.
Right, they are. Ours are, yeah.
Yeah, it would make more sense probably to put solar on the roofs. So then it is going to be a design challenge about how to shade parking lot.
Because there was a request, as I recall, during planning to not put solar at the parking.
And well, again, I
Yeah.
speak for the neighbors right
Yeah,
on that
for the
street,
neighbors across the street,
absolutely.
right.
And I am one of them, full
Yeah,
disclosure.
right.
That looks at that parking lot.
Right.
And but the parking lot, in terms of percentage of shade, yes, some trees, I've got no problem with some trees out there.
Yeah.
But if you make it too dense, I've just watched things get planted and then not taken care of.
Right.
There's that trade with watering, what
Yeah.
size and shape of something are you putting in there? You know, you're gonna put a row of eucalyptus or the willowy somethings, or, you know, you have to be selective. But, it's not a full parking lot during most school days until you're doing pickups and drop-offs. And then when it's inadequate is when you've got events. And so those are usually evening, and that's not when you've got to be dealing with full sun. So
Right.
I think it's possible to fine-tune what the logic and reason is and percentage of coverage that you may need.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to
Yeah,
talk to you offline about what the requirement is
Yeah.
and what's a reasonable
Yeah.
balance
Our-
with
the-
the
yeah, the-
neighbors.
with the landscape architect too, because that's his, I think the coverage is not for comfort of people, but for, it's an environmental issue with the amount of paved surface and the heat island effect.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, it's not
Yeah.
a new parking lot.
Right.
It's an
I know,
existing
I know.
parking lot. So I'd like to see the requirement and make
Oh,
sure.
for
that-
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be happy to share that. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no, and I'm happy to be, all of those things have to be done. And again, I appreciate that we don't have a two-story building, you know, blocking, you know, because there are a lot of people have sight lines, not just from the street, but from, because we're actually kind of on a hillside,
Right.
so.
Also, you recognize that we did eliminate eucalyptus trees on the edge of the school that block the view.
Yes, absolutely.
What Ronaldo is saying, and the public can't hear on the video, is there is going to be removal of eucalyptus trees.
Yep.
I'm just saying it for the camera. Oh, and you've done already some and chipped the front of the school, okay.
Go talk up there, we want to hear you.
Ronaldo, just speak at the microphone so the public can hear. If anybody's watching this at home, they want to hear your.
It's good stuff, we want to hear it.
No, so we have removed some eucalyptus trees that were blocking not only the view, but were also a fire hazard at the south end, at the west end of the property where the playgrounds are. So that now you have a clear view, and we've removed the fire hazard, and we've reutilized the chips of that right nearby, so it is introduced back into the soil. So, recycling.
Lyanne, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to chase you off either, so.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else? No? Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much, both of you. It's great to hear about it.
Thank you for coming out tonight, Lyanne. Thank you for coming out tonight, Ronaldo. Thank you for coming out, Molly and Brianna. And Aaron O'Connor Brown, principal of El Granada. Thank you for being here so late.
Okay, let's wrap her up. Future events, September 13th, Facilities Bond and Parcel Tax Citizens Oversight Committee meeting via Zoom, 6:30 p.m. September 20th, Family Engagement Series and overview of CUSD's mental health and wellness supports via Zoom, 7:00 p.m. October 13th, regular board meeting, Cunha Intermediate School, multipurpose room, 6:00 p.m. And with that, I will move to adjourn the meeting, and could I please have a second?
Thank you, Lisette. Now, please, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye?
Those opposed, please say no. 5 + 1.
Thank you.